I'm going to give you my take, okay? Let me give you my take. There's a certain type of Celtic supporter out there that you're never going to please. There's a certain nitpicker that belongs in the Celtic community that is a real pain in my ass.
Good evening and welcome to the Green Room podcast. Maz.
Johnny.
Batchy.
I thought both the fullbacks were pish today.
Lustig, how do you think he... How do you think he gone?
He is what he is, and that's not very good. Come on, pish. What is your point then?
Still a wee bit donkey.
I'm not convinced by Rogney.
That's pish punted for the French thinks he's pish. Seasoned international playing back in Continental League, he was pish. He was pish.
No, he wasn't.
He was pish. He came on to a game towards the end of his time with us, but he was pish. The fact that he's called John Mensah, you think he's a good player, which is ironic, really. He's pish. That's pish, it's not that pish. But you're talking pish.
Okay, fair enough. He's far too subtle. He's far too subtle for the SPL.
Bang bang. Let's talk about bang.
No, I don't want to talk about bang.
Let's talk about bang bang. I'm going to finish this conversation on this note. Let's talk about bang bang.
Right, 2 seconds.
Let's talk about bang bang. No. I am always reluctant to write off anyone who throws on that hallowed jersey, but I judged him over his entire career and then said he was pish. Do you know what? I love Sammy, but I think the reason I love Sammy is because I hated him so much before.
No,
let's not talk about that off of it because I don't want to use expletives.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Green Room. You joined us for episode 2 of the Green Room. It is 8 o'clock on September the 1st, 2012, and I am joined in the Green Room by our usual suspects,
Johnny
and
Batchy.
and myself, Martin, and we have come via the pub straight from Celtic Park after watching Celtic draw 2 each against Hibernian in our 4th league game of the season and our 2nd game at Celtic Park. And today we've got lots to cover. It has been a busy week in the world of Celtic. But actually, just run through for us, if you will, everything that's happened in the last week, because I've been out of the country and assume that I don't know what the hell's happened.
Really, in this day and age, you don't know what's happened?
I absolutely do know what's happened, but I want you to assume that I am ignorant.
Well, just to let you know, we have qualified for the group stages of the Champions League.
These are the champions.
It's in Champions time. So the first question is, I suppose, is that Zadok the Priest, or am I talking pish?
It's an adaptation of Zadok the Priest.
But it's not Zadok the Priest.
There was 2 arguments ongoing this first. You said it was Zadok the Priest, he said it wasn't.
Whoa.
And I said correctly it's an adaptation of it. Let's be honest, that's where it went.
Johnny, the question I have for you is...
But I know that.
Thank you.
I know that though.
Did
You know that? Okay.
Right,
so why did you say it was Zadok the Priest?
Because that's what it is, isn't it?
It's not. Have you listened to Zadok the Priest?
Yes, and that's not what you
There
said.
is about a 30-second section of Zadok the Priest that sounds like the Champions League theme tune. And
Yes.
that's it. Therefore, I don't think you can say Zadok the Priest.
Thank you.
But if I say Zadok the Priest, everyone knows what I'm referring to.
I think if you say Champions League theme tune, everyone knows what you're
But
referring
that's
to.
a shit. If they wanted to make an adaptation of Zadok the Priest, they should call it something better than the Champions League theme.
Well, to be fair, if it's a Champions League theme tune, I think probably the most descriptive name they could give it is the Champions League theme.
They could have a better name.
Like what?
I don't know. I didn't make it up.
Charlie the Priest? What are you going to call it? It's not the song. I think that is pish.
Right, okay. So, Celtic are in the Champions League, but this is the Green Room, and our primary purpose before we go forward is to look back on the last game we saw, 90 minutes against Hibernian. Johnny, Off the top of your head, overall impressions, feelings about the game today?
I'm not a man for a cliche, but that was a classic game of two halves. To be honest, I think if you'd asked me at half time, as you did, I thought we were excellent at that point. I thought first half we played really well. We obviously got a number of players out. I mean, if you go through our team for today, Fraser Foster in goals, Adam Matthews at right back, Emilio at left back, two centre backs of Kelvin Wilson, the reborn Kelvin Wilson, captain, should be calling that, maybe not, and Michael Lustig, #Pish, at centre back. And the midfield we have in midfield today, we had Twardzik, or however you want to pronounce it. Twardzik. We had Victor Wanyama starting in central midfield. We had James Forrest, and we had Patrick McCourt. And up front, Anthony Watt and Gareth Hooper. My point from that is if you were to take our ideal 11 as I pretty much think we had on the pitch on Wednesday night, there are a number of first team players missing. Pretty much our entire midfield, bar Victor Wanyama, is missing. We're missing our two first choice centre backs as well, which is going to have an impact on any team. So we have to take that into account before we get tore into what happened today. And I would certainly caveat anything I say by saying that we are significantly weakened. Whether that's due to injuries or whether that's due to us resting players is a different argument. If it's due to injuries, there's nothing we can do about it. If it's due to us just deciding to rest players, then perhaps there is a little bit of a...
Do we have to have a conversation about managerial decisions today?
I don't think we do. Because for me the biggest game was always Wednesday, and our next biggest game is in the Champions League.
How do you think, did the team set up as a 4-4-2? Just the way we describe it, we think about that.
We started as a 4-4-2, absolutely. We changed in the second half to more of a 4-3-3.
I thought we started as a 4-2-3-1.
Okay.
I
think that's wrong. But
I saw in the first half. I saw Tony Watt leading the line.
Hooper was playing slightly off Tony Watt.
He was coming really very deep.
It was still a two up front from me though, but he was playing slightly off him in the way that you would, your stereotypical big man wee man partnership. I know it's not. You ain't class Tony Watt as a big man compared to Gary Hooper wee man, but it was that kind of. There was two up front for me, but one was. It wasn't the Chris Commons guy playing in the hole. Gary Hooper wasn't playing in the hole.
Right. Let's place this game in the context of the last week. Now, I was out of the country, and so I didn't see the Inverness game. I've since then kind of caught up. I've seen some highlights, I've heard some reports, read a bit about it, and my understanding is we put in possibly one of our best performances of the season.
We were excellent, but it was a game, as opposed to being a game of two halves this week, it was a game of two teams last week. Because we played with a freedom last week, but Inverness were absolutely dreadful. That's the worst I've seen Inverness play against us. Up in Inverness, well, certainly since they joined the Premier League, like they were awful, awful.
Right.
I don't know if it's down to the fact that they've lost guys like Ross Stokely and players like that, and they don't really seem dig about them. But it was all too easy. I mean, it was 4-2. It should have been 6-0.
But did you watch the game?
I did, yeah. Actually gutting to lose 2 goals, but Celtic played well. Inverness played terribly.
The received wisdom I have is that the standouts were Philip Twardzik and Tony Watt.
Tony Watt particularly.
Yeah, outstanding contribution.
Yeah. So the upshot was today, I don't know the reasons why, presumably some were injured. Going by Lennon's post-match comments, he thought that Ledley, Brown...
Well, Joe Ledley's injured, right? Joe Ledley was injured over in Sweden, right? We know that. Scott Brown has been struggling with injury since time immemorial.
Been taking painkiller injections.
He's obviously out injured just now, but he's been a constant problem for us since the day he signed with injuries. He's a wonderful player and he's fit for me. He's a first choicer, but really struggles with injuries. I think there's a number of players, but there's a particularly gruelling pre-season schedule with a number of fairly competitive games in a short space of time to get us up to speed to the Champions League. That has taken its toll. It was the right thing to do. Because we had to do it, because we couldn't be caught cold in the Champions League qualifiers again, as we have done in recent years. It's proven to be the correct decision, but we're paying the price of that to a certain extent just now.
Right.
And it may be that we have to suffer a stuttering start to the season.
So we started that. We've run through the lineup. Do you have any quibbles in terms of who you think was available with the lineup today?
I mean, well, from one perspective, it's difficult to say who was available and who was just being rested. Obviously, there are a number of players who you'd have in your first 11. I'm going to give the gaffer the benefit of the doubt in that he put out the best team that he had available to him today.
Bar Chris Commons.
Chris Commons has been struggling with an ankle injury since the Inter Milan game though, so I'm going to suggest that he wasn't 100% fit, hence the reason he didn't start. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't have started him if he's not 100% fit, because after this weekend, it's the international weekend next weekend and he's not in the Scotland squad, so there's no reason why he wouldn't have played if he was 100% fit.
No. Okay, right, let's talk about the first half. We've reviewed the highlights with the benefit of snippets of what we saw of the game. We were all at the game. Your overall impression of the first half? I personally was entirely comfortable that we would go on and be comfortable winners today at half time, because that was the first time personally I'd seen Tony Watt play 90 minutes for Celtic, but at half time I thought it was fantastic. I thought his movement was great, I thought his composure on the ball was terrific, and I thought he was making really telling runs, and I felt he was hooking up really well with Gary Hooper. He did that today better, I think, than I have seen him Hooper and Stokes link up for many a long year.
James Forrest as well, particularly in the first half, was very, very good at driving at players, and he was going on mazy runs, obviously set up Hooper for that chance to come off the bar. Forrest fell away from it in the second half.
There was some changes in terms of how we set up in the second half.
Yeah, there was a different shape in the second half. But I mean, Gary Hooper, one time in the second half, Gary Hooper was absolutely screaming at Forrest because Gary Hooper had about 4 players with him and actually managed to retain the ball and burst forward, and then he had no one to pass to because Forrest was spectating like me and you were.
He was moved out to the left.
Well, at this point actually he was on the right
in the second half?
before he moved.
He was moved twice in the second half actually. Started on the right and then was moved to the left.
Yeah. But in terms of the overall first half performance, I thought quite
first half Celtic were excellent.
Yeah.
Moved the ball very well. I'm not entirely sure I agree with you about as you well know, and as listeners to this podcast will well know, I'm not an Anthony Stokes fan. But I think at times he does link up well with you, but I'm not entirely sure that was the case with Tony Watt, and that you can say he linked up better than what he does with Hooper than what Stokes does.
That'll come hopefully.
Oh, of course it will. He's only a young player. I'm just talking about what I said about the first half. Like, I don't think.
And Hooper does need a partner, and sometimes it's Stokes, sometimes it's Commons, and that works well.
He doesn't have a partner. Let's be honest. Anthony Stokes isn't a partner for anyone. Anthony Stokes is not a partner for anyone at all. He's not. We're laughing about it, but he's not. He's a very, very average football player who score goals in the SPL. Nothing against the guy personally, but that's the case.
Outside of the Celtic squad, see if Anthony Stokes...
I think it says Owen Huddersfield offer less than £1 million for him.
Right, okay. Well, listen, see outside of the Celtic squad, right, who's the best... Okay, pretend for a minute Anthony Stokes doesn't play for Celtic. If Anthony Stokes played for different, would he be your best striker outside of Celtic in the SPL?
Well, probably be Johnny Russell.
Do you know what? I think that probably says it all. It may be slightly controversial, but if you offered me Johnny Russell or Anthony Stokes, I would take Johnny Russell, because I think Johnny Russell has the ability to become better. I don't think Anthony Stokes does.
God. Okay, right, before we go on further on Anthony Stokes, let's just...
But the game today, in terms of the game today, I thought first half the movement was excellent. Tony Watt looked dangerous every time he got on the ball. Victor Wanyama was controlling the middle of the park.
A couple of misplaced passes from Victor.
He does that. He gets a wee bit carried away with himself at times.
But I think he'll always redeem himself. I mean, his plus points overwhelm the fact that he does
country mile.
He does misplace passes, but I mean, we've got to remember he's still a young guy. I mean, he's going to be a superstar.
I think he just gets a wee bit carried away with his own ability at times. I think he thinks it's a bit too easy for him.
He was sorely missed when he went off today.
To be honest, I thought in the first half, I also thought Kelvin Wilson looked pretty secure. I thought Mikael Lustig looked pretty secure at centre back. Obviously scored a great goal, a great finish. Absolutely dreadful defending from Hibernian. Dreadful defending. To lose a centre half from the opposing team at a corner is brutal. But they did that, and when he was presented with the opportunity, it was a nice finish.
Beautiful finish, yeah.
So fair play to him.
Yeah, and we hit the bar in the first half.
We hit the underside of the bar through Gary Hooper. Tony Watch just scored and was through 1-on-1. He's just tried to be cocky, to be honest. I don't know.
Well, this is it, right? Okay.
Why is it just
because I got and I was comfortable with this, but at half time I got the impression that we were being quite wasteful in the sense that we always assumed that Hibs were there for the taking.
We're wasteful quite often. I think that's the reason I'm saying another striker. We're wasteful quite, let's be honest, we're wasteful quite often.
Yeah.
We create a lot of chances and don't convert a lot of them. That's one of our big problems.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think anybody inside Parkhead at half time would have any qualms with the performance. I think considering the team we put out, it was a good performance, we done well. And then we came out the second half and everything had changed. Everything had changed.
With a tactical change, Victor Wanyama was taken off.
It wasn't a tactical change.
Well, no, it was an enforced change. Lenny said at half
he was injured.
He was injured, so it was a direct replacement of him for Irvin Jackson.
Jackson Irvin.
Double barrel names are not part of the Celtic tradition.
So at half time, Victor Wanyama so second half, Victor Wanyama went off injured and Jackson Irvin comes on. That for me was what changed the game.
Was it the loss of Wanyama, or was it?
It was the loss of Wanyama. We lost control of the midfield. We certainly the first 15-20 minutes of the second half we had a central midfield player of Philip Twarzik and Jackson Irvin. Now Jackson Irvin is not a man I profess to know a lot about. I wouldn't say he hugely impressed me today, but I mean I'm not going to judge a player on one performance.
He's a fucking horrific.
Philip Twarzik is I think an excellent football player. But I said it to you actually last week after watching the Inverness game. I think he's a very cultured and he's going to be a really good football player for us. He doesn't have a physique to play centre half, certainly not at the moment anyway. He's very, very slight.
So, centre half?
Centre mid, sorry. Centre mid,
is he the replacement for Key?
Far from it. I mean, far from it. I think he's a prospect for the future. He looks like a good football player. He's got a nice touch. Yep. He's got ability to pick out a pass, but he doesn't have the physique to play centre mid, and particularly when you pair him with another guy, Jackson Irvin.
That didn't work.
But we were completely overrun the middle of the park. They had two good pros in the middle of the park, and they just completely overrun us there. And they took control of the game at the beginning of the second half, and I thought that made a difference at that point in the game.
So Hibs equalised, and equalised through a gift basically.
Calamity.
Yeah.
Not a gift, a calamity.
Who's to blame, goalkeeper or centre half?
Either or both for me. The question is, right, the ball comes, and it's in one of those dangerous areas that it's one or t'other, right? Now, either Fraser Foster comes out, he advances from his line, either he's got to be screaming at Mikael Lustig, I'm taking this, and he's got to clear the two of them out to take the ball, right? Or Lustig doesn't hear a shout and he gets the ball into Rose head, right? Simple as that. So I don't know who's to blame because you can't hear the shouts, right? But what I would say is, if the keeper has come off his line as he has done, he should be going for the ball. There's no reason for Fraser. If you watch it go back again, there's no reason for Fraser Foster to come off his line unless he's going for the ball. If he isn't going to take the ball, he should be staying in his line. So for me, the blame lies with Fraser Foster. But at the same time, do you know what? See if it was Bobo Baldy or Effie Ambrose. That ball would be in Rose head. A good centre half, good centre half. They wouldn't even have taken the risk of the keeper because it was one of those ones that was kind of 50-50. You thought this is probably the keeper's ball, but a commanding centre half would just have nailed that. Even put it out for a corner, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And it was a calamitous goal to lose at a bad time.
Right. Okay. And so that occurred not long after the start of the second half. Well, for 10-15 minutes in the second half. That point, you've got half an hour to go to rescue the game. How did you feel spectating the crowd? What was the change in atmosphere, bad shape? How did you feel? Did you still think we could go on and win the game?
I thought at that point I was confident because of the first half performance. I was confident we would go on and win that game.
But we watched Celtic for 10 minutes, basically being all at sea. I personally, I didn't feel that confident. Yeah. I had certain doubts were in my mind, and I was thinking to myself, we're not shaping up right. And I looked at the bench, and the only first team player there is Chris Collins.
Yeah, I mean that was concerning. Our bench today was concerning, but again we've been over that.
It's got to be injuries though.
The injury problem that we've got.
So we got the button. There's a bit of concentrated Celtic pressure, and we get a goal back. and it's a free kick from Patrick McCourt. Let's talk about Paddy.
Do you know what? It was a sclaff of a goal, right? Let's not try and dress it up in any way. We got a scrappy goal.
I think it's got to go down as an own goal for me.
Aye, it probably was. It was difficult to tell at the time. I mean, certainly it looks like get the last touch from a Celtic player, but whether or not it was over the line before the Hibs player touched it, who knows? It was a scrappy goal. It wasn't a particularly great ball from McCourt, if that's the road you're going down. It was just,
I was
just knocked it into a danger area.
I was attempting a comedy segue so we could have a chat about that.
It's just, to be honest, like, do you know what? It's just he's a bit like the Joker for us.
Nah, it's not. No, I don't.
When's he ever turned a game for us? When's he ever done
it?
We went through this. Okay, there'll be one or two situations through his entire Celtic career where he's possibly won a game for us, and I mean one or two. He is the classic guy that Celtic bring on, or Neil Lennon, certainly last season, the season before, would bring on with 10 minutes to go, 20 minutes to go, and we need a goal, and he'll drift by 2 or 3 players, and there'll be no end product. There is no end product with Paddy McCourt. He did the same thing today.
Yeah.
Came through, on goal, skinned a couple of players,
and
he fucking knocked it by the post.
For a split second, you think it's going to be one of those Patrick McCourt goals, but it didn't. Trundle past.
There only ever has been maybe 2 of those Patrick McCourt goals that we refer to.
I'm not talking about his goals. I want to evaluate his overall performance in the midfield, because I actually thought he was linking up well. I thought he was doing.
It's easy to play a square pass.
In that,
we've got better guys than that.
I think he was retaining possession well, and he was covered by 2 or 3 players. I think he was doing well to recycle the ball.
Do you know what? See if Paddy McCourt gets a wee bit of pressure put on him, he brushes off the ball that he's not there. That's ridiculous for a 30-year-old of whatever age he is. I thought he was older than that.
I don't think he was the what. The trouble with our midfield today was that it was particularly lightweight. We know that, right? Particularly after when Yama went off, right? It was a lightweight midfield. Forrest is an attacking midfielder, right?
That's over and above the Paddy McCourt.
I suspect what I was going to say was I suspect that Paddy McCourt was asked to play slightly more retrograde today, in the sense that he was to sit further back. And
he's done that a couple of times for us. I
know, and I think that's Lennon's trying to recycle him as a.
No, I think that's because he's playing him further forward. Well, for a start, he's tried to play him out wide, right, in a 4-man midfield or in a 4-3-3. He doesn't have the pace to beat a player, right? He's got the guile to drift past a player, but the guy will catch up with him very, very quickly, right? Do you know what? I wouldn't sell Paddy McCourt tomorrow, right? Unless if somebody came in off the £1 million, but I wouldn't say necessarily we have to punt him tomorrow, because he's a squad player. I know he's popular with the fans, and well, I can understand that because he's entertaining at times. But there's no end product with Paddy McCourt. Anybody who says otherwise is bullshit. To be perfectly honest with you, there is no end product with Paddy McCourt. I'd love there to be. I want to love him, and I like him, but there's just no end product.
He's got a good song as well.
He does have a good song, but he's never ever going to be a first choice player of Celtic.
You're absolutely right. He is. If it wasn't Paddy McCourt and everything that comes with Paddy McCourt, and that's inverted commas there, he would be deemed as not being Celtic class. But for some reason, there's this whole thing about don't sell McCourt, Paddy McCourt. I don't know.
But I do understand.
I understand.
Do you know what?
I understand where there's an affinity with him, right? It's not
do you know what I like?
Of course there's an affinity with him, right? If he was English, it wouldn't be the same
That's
affinity,
not what I'm defending.
right?
I like any player in the midfield who plays with his head up and he's looking about. And I think he was the only one in the midfield today. Occasionally with the honourable exception. In fact, no, not with the honourable exception of James Forrest. He's the only one today I thought that had his head up, was looking around.
Didn't do anything today, man.
Oh, no.
That's not good enough.
I know, yeah.
I want to love him too, and I went through 2 years of wanting to love him and defend him in these sort of conversations. But he's not done anything for us. You know what, let's be honest. He scored a goal against St Mirren, a wonderful goal against St Mirren, I think one against Dunfermline, where he skinned 4 or 5 players. Aye. He's done that. But it's games where you're 3-0 up and it's really, really not important.
Nearly.
We brought him on in so many big games, to try and turn that around when we need a goal attempts on, and they've never done anything.
The 2-0 today nearly broke the deadlock. He manufactured that choice himself. And you did turn to me at the time and say that's vintage.
He's a merely man of Parkhead. He really is. He really is.
I think you'd be right. And if the squad's moving on, if the team's moving on to another level,
if he'd got me 20 years old and we'd built his physique up, possibly trained them properly, possibly.
There's talk of a loan move.
I want to love him. A loan. There's no point in a loan move.
No, I'm saying would forget the Celtic side. Like, would he? He'd be a maverick. He'd be a wonderful signing for them. Yeah.
wonderful signing for Hibs or someone of that level.
But is that not what Celtic should be doing? Should we not be getting about the reasonably profile instead of more?
I don't think. I think he's. I don't know what age he is actually. To be honest, I think he's about 30 years old. I don't think we'll get any money back from him. I don't think he's on much money at Parkhead. I don't think it was ever a big risk. I think he's probably on, I don't know, £7,000 a week, something like that. Like, I think we'll say out his contract and go back to Ireland, and that'll be it. And he'll probably go down in folklore, and we'll talk about him in 15 years' time. We'll say, remember Paddy McClure? And he'll be one of these guys that will be remembered more fondly than more fondly than he was at the time at the club. Like, he'll probably go down as a bit of a cult hero as he is just now. But I'm here to look at this in a more clinical sense, and he's not good enough for the Celtic first team.
Right. So we pulled it back to 2-1, and at that point, how did you feel? I mean, were you even relaxed then? I don't know. I don't think I was. But
no, not with the way we were playing, because it was, well, for me, I don't often criticise Neil Lennon because he doesn't make many mistakes, so there aren't many things that I would disagree with. But I thought the decision to change your formation to what was effectively a 4-3-3 in the second half, I think it backfired. In the first half.
But the thing is, I think we were playing as a 4-3-3 in the first half. I don't know if it started like that. My view was that Tony Watt was playing through the middle and up front rather, and that Hooper was sitting dynamically behind him.
Hooper's not a midfielder, so he wasn't playing in midfield.
Yeah, but listen, Hooper comes. It doesn't play like
he was dropping deep, but he wasn't playing midfield.
Okay, well maybe not. I wouldn't say.
They changed from a 4-4-2 to a 4-3-3, Marlon. It was a distinct change. I agree, Hooper was dropping a bit deeper than Tony Watt in the first half, right? But it was still a 4-4-2, still a conventional 4-4-2. In the second half, and James Forrest was excellent in the first half and had a lot of success.
Aye.
But we decided to change it to a 4-3-3, where effectively had Hooper at the spearhead of this. We had Tony Watt on the left hand side at one point, and then on to the right hand side, and James Forrest on the other side. So we started off with Tony Watt on the left and James Forrest on the right, and then switched them about. Tony Watt is not a winger.
No.
Andy can see that he's not a winger.
No.
And in that formation as well, it allowed him to double up on James Forrest, and it completely nullified his threat as well.
I think that's it. And if I would call Neil Lennon one thing, and I don't call him in very much because he knows infinitely more about football than me, right? But I think today there was two things. First thing is that he was about to bring on Commons before we scored our second, and then I think he delayed it because we had scored a second and he wanted to give the guys in the park a bit more time. I think that was a mistake because we could see then that we needed a bit more.
A lot of pressure on Commons when he did come on with only 15 minutes.
The other thing I think Neil Lennon did was to swap over Watt and Forrest. It didn't work.
It wasn't working before that though. It wasn't working before that, no.
I disagree. I think James Forrest.
It was excellent in the first half. In the second half it was terrible. When he switched them two, right, the two of them were pish, and then he switched them either side, and they were still pish because the formation wasn't working. Tony Watt is a centre forward. I mean, I don't know as much about football as Neil Lennon does, but Tony Watt is a centre forward every day of the week. That's his main attribute. He's not a silky winger. He's just an out-and-out centre forward. He's an eye for goal. He just wants to be direct and make things happen. Well, that's his game, right?
I think the reason why Forrest was pitched in the second half in the same position was because he didn't have cover from Wanyama, and the guy who was put in his replacement was completely ineffective. And
he didn't cover from Wanyama. He doesn't need cover when he's taking on somebody.
Jackson Irvine was pretty much anonymous in that.
He was.
I think that
probably is any difference.
The amount of ground that Wanyama covers, who's on the park, allows those more attacking players more freedom to get forward with
I don't think you can blame that on. I don't think you can blame that on a poor second half performance from James Forrest. To be honest with you, I think that's why we lost control in midfield. But I think
the other thing we should talk about is the way that the crowd affects Celtic performances when we go behind, because that's what happened.
The fans were getting unsettled because we were playing poorly. These guys, you need to accept that's going to happen, right? They weren't getting dulcet abuse. There was no personal abuse at all. It was far from like hatred raining down from the stands. Like, it was far from it. We're getting a bit disgruntled. We're getting disgruntled with misplaced passes. There was nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong. So what do you expect? Do you expect them to cheer these guys when they misplace a pass?
No,
they need to learn the hard way. If you
just,
want to have the mentality to play central midfield for Celtic,
I'm not saying that somehow Celtic fans should be more understanding. I'm saying that what a natural reaction of having an inexperienced midfield is that when the game gets edgy and the crowd gets upset and uptight, that these guys are not equipped to deal with it because of the.
So what's your solution to that?
Like, I don't have a solution. I'm just saying. I just point out.
I think if we were playing an edgy game in the Champions League and we had Joe Ledley and Benham Kyle in the centre of the park, then a misplaced pass would be getting, would certainly being met with derision from the stands.
Yeah. So Hibs came back and they equalised and it was 2-2, 10 minutes to go. Yeah. How did you feel at that point? I mean,
There was no way we were winning that game.
Game over.
It was game over. Well, the only thing was going to happen, so we were going to win.
Right, I want to taking our eyes off what happened in the park, thinking about the overall feel of the game, the feeling about that you went into the game, your expectations of what happened how you felt when you came away. I think as a fan about the impact that the game and the result had on you and your thoughts for the league campaign and compared to other pre-seasons, we spoke about this before, Johnny. You're just not that gutted, are you? It's just a 2-2 result. We're still at the top of the league miraculously.
I think you're getting carried away if you're reading too much into it. I think in any campaign, in any season, even when the former Rangers were in existence in our league, one or two draws at the start of the season, yes, of course, you're disappointed, you're gutted. But even then, still be saying to your mates when you're sitting in the pub, there's a long way to go, there'll be twists and turns. There always is. There always is.
If Rangers are playing at half 2 today, right, and they get a 3-0 result,
you're a bit more gutted than what you are just now. You're a bit more gutted than what you are just now.
Does that detract from without fucking it, and people are going to be angry about saying this, right, but the fact that they're not there, does that not detract from your overall experience of a Celtic? Because we'd be absolutely gutted with 2 each result.
I think there would have been a bit more tension in the last 5 minutes, but you still got the boos at full. There's still people booing at full time.
Which is shocking in the second home league game of the season.
It's not for me. I really boo.
No, but I would never boo either, right? But we've played 4 games. We've had 2 home victories and we've had 2 victories and 2 draws. That's not a great start to the season. You put it in the context of a pretty much exemplary Champions League.
We have sacrificed our league campaign to this point for our European campaign.
And I think that's
on the altar of the European campaign.
And do you know what? It's been the right thing to do. It has been proven.
I mean, let's face it, if we get into the last 16 of the Champions League, then that's
really.
But if we don't, then that's when we can just storm the league. And I'm getting ahead of myself here, but there's a long way to go.
But the thing is this, right? Okay, so the Seth Covians are watching, right? And they seem to you love the fact that they see you in the Champions League and you can get it right up here.
Why?
Yeah. But the same token as well, if we get to Christmas and there's another team in touching distance of us.
That's what I want. I want that.
No,
I genuinely want that.
But the thing is, you're a bit ambivalent about it.
That's fine. There's no longer another big team to take points off. The other contenders.
I would have loved it today if we won 4-0. I love seeing Celtic win.
Yeah.
But honestly,
but there isn't a Rangers now who are going to take points off teams like Hibs or the nearest contenders, Hearts.
I know.
It's going to be tight on people think.
All the other teams in the league, right? There'll be 2 or 3 other teams in the league who will take points. We will lose points this year. We will lose points at Tannadice. We'll lose points at Tynecastle. I mean, well, for me, Dundee United in particular, Gary Mackay-Steven and Johnny Russell. There's an argument to say they would get in our team. They're 2 very, very good players. They've got a good settled squad. Hearts have lost a lot of their good players, to be fair, but Tynecastle's always a really difficult place to go.
And there's the case, you saw it up at Ross County on any given day. And any away ground in Scotland can be tricky.
We will win the league, and we'll win it by a decent margin, but it's not going to be 30 points by December like the Doomongers were suggesting, right?
There's no the same pressure now, is there? I mean, there's not.
No. And it goes back to what I was saying about the game today. There wasn't the same tension in the last 10 minutes and there would have been if Rangers had been playing, for example, in the early kick-off and had won.
Yeah, so in terms of the overall atmosphere at Celtic Park, does it suffer But a lack of
It hasn't suffered, but I predict it will suffer.
Right. How did you... Hibs, I thought, brought a very healthy away crowd today.
Yep, good.
Notwithstanding the fact that we got treated to a rendition of We Are the People. I was shocked with that.
You just, to be honest, I don't really pay attention to these things.
That's just one group
They're
of
there
fans
to wind
winding
up.
up another group of fans.
Exactly, battery. They're there to wind us up.
That's bad for
They had a big banner at the start saying we were the first to wear green or something like that.
Same as the
They're there to wind us up.
the Helsingborg.
I don't think that's
Helsingborg
honest.
did it as well. Helsingborg did it.
It's
They
like,
had their Union Jacks and all that during the week.
it's like when Hearts come and sing hello, hello. I actually like it, to be honest. I want to hate them.
Yeah.
Fair enough, you know.
You missed... Actually, I did think that. You missed that age.
Yeah.
You do. Right, okay, so let's knock that part in the head. We'll discuss the game. In the context of the league, it's too early to start prognosticating about what that means, but...
If we'd a full strength team, we might be sitting here with him in a different conversation.
Right, yeah.
But with what we had available, it was a poor result, poor second half performance.
Right.
We're not going to cut our wrists.
No. Celtic are in the Champions League. Get it right up you. Okay, it's been 4 long years since we heard that music at Parkhead. Johnny, Batchy, I wasn't there. How did that feel?
Sensational.
Absolutely frigging wonderful. Amazing. I mean, we were discussing this offline earlier, like, at that moment when the Champions League theme music is playing and all the wee kids in the middle wearing that Champions League flag, like, there's just nothing better. It's amazing.
The whole ground is throbbing.
The hairs in the back of your neck are standing on end, like, you're pumping. And do you know what? I'm just thinking to myself at that point, if I'm Gary Hooper, if I'm Charlie Mulgrew, if I'm one of the players standing in that, I must be absolutely bouncing. The adrenaline must be absolutely pouring through your veins, like ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, representing the club you love, as it is for some of these guys, at Europe's top table is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like supporting your club against Europe's elite is just amazing for me.
Europe's elite, right? So there's 8 groups in the Champions League, and that represents how many European countries? Probably about 15.
I don't know. I would guess.
I'm sure. And despite everything that we've heard in the summer, Scotland are there, represented by Celtic. And in order to get there, we've dispatched comfortably Finnish champions, the Swedish champions, countries which are per capita more populous than ours.
Aye.
And Celtic have done so quite comfortably,
Okay.
and with the disadvantage of being at the start of the season, when they're still trying to kind of get your squad sorted out, and you're basically building a team in the back of a month and a half of inactivity.
Yeah.
Can we just take our hats off to Neil Lennon for
Absolutely.
complete achievement?
Agreed.
Can we actually all raise our glasses at this point?
Yeah.
Neil Lennon.
Neil Lennon, well done.
Lennon and troops. Can I add my typical Johnny caveat to that?
Yes.
Certainly, in terms of Helsinki in our first qualifier, it was as good as we could have got. We've done well. In the second qualifier, and I did say this before the draw was made on our Twitter feed at Green Room CSC. I did say that the best draw we could have got from there was Helsingborg's.
Yeah.
And that came to pass. I do think that's the case. I think that was the easiest team we could have got.
Was it an easy tie?
No, it wasn't an easy tie. It was the easiest
Right.
from what was available in terms of travelling and in terms of the teams. I mean, even teams like AEL Limassol have had a fantastic record in Europe in the past 18 months or so, and spent a lot of money. I think that in terms of what was out there, Helsingborgs was the tag we wanted, and we got that. And I don't mean to say it was easy. It certainly wasn't, but it was the easiest we could have got.
Yeah.
And I said that, and people disagreed with it, but it was the case, and it proved to be the case.
Yeah. And coming through that tie, we did so with, I think, from the distance that I saw it at,
no, it's a decent team, but let's not forget, as I said on the Twitter feed before, they were sitting mid-table in Sweden. Yeah. Right, we were sitting mid-table in Sweden.
That in a previous life, Celtic would have struggled with that tie. And actually Celtic almost struggled in those games. No, I think the first game away at Sweden. After the first half, I had the fear.
I think there's better teams than Celtic who could have come away from that tie a lot worse off than Celtic did.
Yeah.
Celtic would have done so 2 years ago.
It's a classic game, right? Yeah. That for me, the first leg of that Helsingborg Celtic game was like a role reversal for Celtic. That was like the situation you found where Celtic pummel a team and end up 2-0 down, or lose a goal after 2 minutes, then have 30 minutes of pummeling our team, having great chances, the opposition keeper having a great game, and then getting hit by a sucker punch. And that's exactly what we did. So let's not complain about it, let's embrace it. Right, that's brilliant, that's a European performance.
Yeah. And at Celtic Park, we took them. They didn't look as
never any doubt as to who was winning that game. Never any doubt. Celtic were authoritative, were powerful. Just everything about us was excellent that night. Excellent. There was no doubt.
Who were your standouts in the Helsingborg setting?
Samaras was outstanding again.
Brilliant.
Said it the first time around. I love the guy. I love the guy because I hated him so much, but I still love him. He's the first name on the team sheet in the big games now for me. I'm certainly one of the first names. I thought Kelvin Wilson was immense.
Yeah, he was
immense. Which that's the first time I've ever said that.
Yeah.
First time I've ever said that in his entire Celtic
career. They made the captaincy today on the basis of that,
No, absolutely not. But who else would have been captain?
No, Fraser Forster.
Gary Hooper?
Forster.
Forster, maybe? No.
Yeah. No.
There wasn't an obvious choice here. So
I suppose does that expose a wee bit of...
But I suppose that, listen, I don't think there's any more to read into it on the fact that our captain was out, Jalen Mulgrew was out, Benham Kyle would have taken after him, probably Joe Ledley, like all these guys are out. So
fair dues.
I think that's probably as far as we can go.
We got us to position. We had a fantastic 3 days. On Wednesday, we qualified for the Champions League. On Thursday, we had the Champions League draw. Let's talk about that. Okay.
Right. Okay. I'm going to put it out there right away. As soon as it came out, I was gutted.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
As soon as it came out, as soon as the teams, or as soon as we were put into that group, the group, whatever it is, Group G I think it is, or Group D, anyway, a bit of me was crying out for the group that had Real,
Man City and Ajax.
Yeah. We wouldn't have went anywhere in that group.
I could have sworn that was going to be Celtic. And that.
A bit of me was hoping for that glamour though. Right, a bit of me was hoping for that.
Here's my thoughts on that. Right?
But you do always want exposure in the Champions League. You want exposure, and that group would have certainly.
Well, the fact is, there's a financial benefit from getting a group with more glamorous teams. There's a communal pot of Champions League money which gets allocated on the basis of, I think, it's television views and things like that. And we would have got a higher proportion of it. How much of a difference it makes, I don't know.
We've got Barcelona in there.
But do you know what? We've got the biggest team in the world in there, right? And we've got 2 teams who, to be honest, they're better than us, but they're beatable, right? But the big thing for me, or the big thing at the time, certainly for me, was I was thinking we've played all these teams within the last 5-6 years. Like that's a wee bit disappointing. But on the other hand, about half an hour later, I think I was texting one of you guys, and I was like, do you know what? We're playing fucking Barcelona in the Champions League. This is amazing. We're going to see Lionel Messi at Parkhead again. No,
he won't have happy memories of Parkhead. He got carried off injured.
That's right. Aye.
But every one of those games is going to be a sellout at Celtic Park. And on the basis,
ticket price is excellent as well, by the way.
Yeah, that's a big shout out to Celtic.
My approach to
when
we go for it, when you go into one of these draws, my approach is like the top seed teams are all going to be probably beating Celtic over both legs, right?
Barcelona will beat every team in that group.
So what I say to myself is the top seed doesn't. The top team, the pot doesn't matter. You go for the most glamorous tie you can get.
Yeah.
And then after that, you start thinking about who you can beat.
Yeah, see, before the draw was made for me, I'm thinking I'll take the top 2 glamorous teams, and I mean, I'd love to get to December, being in the Champions League and get a wee run in Europe, in the Europa League from January onwards. I would have settled for that. I would have settled for that.
Yeah.
Quite hard. Now that what the teams we've got, I think
go for second place. Come on,
we can do it.
We can,
but it's not. I mean, 2 teams are playing against are better than us, right? Let's be perfectly clear.
Right, hold on, okay.
No, they are, Martin, they are. The resources are far more resources than
Infinitely.
Yeah. And the reason they're in pots higher above us is because they're better than us, right? There's no debating it anyway at all.
But
Benfica and Spartak Moscow are better than us, right? But that's not to say that we can't finish high above them. We win our home games.
When we had Spartak in the qualifier for the Champions League a few years back, it was a great tie. That was a fantastic tie. Really exciting.
Benfica, sorry.
No, the Spartak Moscow in a tie as a qualifier.
Paul Hartley with the header, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then it went to penalties.
After Boris with his jazz hands,
even
the penalty.
I think actually was that one of the ones where he and Lee Naylor had a bit of a tiff just before half time.
Yes.
You may be right.
Anyway, really exciting.
You know what? That whole tie was excellent. Let's just reminisce for a second.
And I think it was 1 each as well at Celtic Park in the return, and then it went to penalties, and then it was.
Did we not miss a penalty as well in that game? In the return leg, I think we did. I think we missed a penalty.
Maybe Naka.
The thing is that my memory of that game was it swung so often, and then it went to extra time. It went. To
penalties. Yes, Jan missed a penalty. Big. Hesley. Is that
Hesley missed a
Vinegar.
Yeah, and then that's fantastic.
What a tie! But I mean, going back to what we're talking about. This is a team who, well, I don't know about now, I'm not familiar with them, apart from Gidey, I don't know much about them. I mean, this is a team we can beat. Benfica as well, I mean, we put 3 goals past them, that was one of the best Celtic performances in Europe.
Strachan's team though, back to right, whatever you say with Gordon Strachan, see the way he organised us for European games, it was brilliant. We got through that game.
We've got a chance against Spartak, right? Of course we have. They play in a plastic pitch, which they still got that same plastic pitch they had back in the day. It didn't cause any problems then, shouldn't really cause any problems now, so I imagine it's pretty good quality if it's Champions League quality. But you think about that team, just on a point you were bringing up there, that team, that's Strachan's team, right? I'll go through for you just now, the team that beat Spartak Moscow, right?
Yeah,
I like to hear that,
right. Now I want you to bear in mind that this is a Gordon Strachan team. Gordon Strachan's team took us through the Champions League group stages and took us into our last 16 tie against AC Milan and took us to extra time in Milan against AC Milan. Yeah. Right. Now let's go through this team and think about how many players you would take compared to nowadays team, right? Yeah. So Arthur Boric in goals, right? Mark Wilson, the right back, right? So Arthur Boric and Fraser Foster. A lot of people would say Arthur Boric.
I would say Foster.
I don't think there's much in it.
There's a toss-up.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. Mark Wilson at right back or Adam Matthews. I think I'd take Adam Matthews.
I would go with Mark Wilson.
Caldwell McManus, centre back. Now, I'm a big fan of Gary Caldwell. This is controversial and I've been through this with many people, but Gary Caldwell.
Can I just say, for the benefit of listeners, if you want to hammer Johnny on Gary Caldwell, get in touch on @GreenRoomCSE.
Gary Caldwell's great at scoring goals against Celtic in Europe.
Gary Caldwell's immense. He would still be. He should be the Celtic captain just now, and he's a captain for a Premiership team now. He's as a footballing centre half. He's fantastic.
He's a bomb scare.
Gary Caldwell's fantastic. Okay. Gary Caldwell's biggest problem when he was Celtic was Steve McManus. If Gary Caldwell played alongside Bobo Baldy, it would be like Effie Ambrose to Charlie Mulgrew. Right? You need a brute and you need a culture football player. Gary Caldwell was a culture football player. Steve McManus wasn't a brute.
Gary Caldwell's distribution from the back was
second to none.
Excellent.
Second to none.
It was excellent. It was a bit of a bomb scare.
It was a bit like watching a young Paolo Maldini for me.
Can we move on to his
But anyway, so you've got Caldwell McManus. I don't think we've got a better centre back pair now. All joking aside, I do love Gary Caldwell, but we don't have a better centre back pairing? Or if we do, somebody tell me who it is.
So I really want to know who the left back was. I want to
Rodney Mulgrew. Talk about centre back soon. Rodney Mulgrew. That for me is my first choice, but is it better? Probably not, because it's not been proven.
It's not. Well, we're a bit of a state of flux with centre backs, aren't we? Sharon Mulgrew probably. Yeah. I would probably drop one of them. I'd probably drop my manager and put Mulgrew in.
Okay, so left back then, we've now got Emilio Izagiri. Would you rather have
Lee Naylor?
Lee Naylor?
Oh, there is no question.
Okay, I think that goes without saying as well. Right, so your midfield then. Nakamura.
Yes, in the team of
Scott Brown.
Yes.
Massimo Donati and Aidan McGeady.
So
right, so let's take that. That was our first choice, right? So Nakamura, I'd imagine he played on the right probably. Scott Brown and Donati is your two centre mids, and McGeady on the left. Our first choice four across the middle just now is probably what? It's probably
Ledley,
Joe Ledley, Scott Brown.
Wanyama.
I wouldn't even say Kyle.
Wanyama in Commons.
Probably Wanyama Commons or Forrest maybe. I don't know who would the first choice would be.
I'm a big McGeady fan. I would have McGeady in there.
I think it'd probably be, for me anyway, I think it'd be Scott Brown and Wanyama as your two centre mids. Probably James Forrest on the right and Chris Commons on the left.
I would go with that, apart from I would have Naka in there. I would have Naka as head of Forest.
So John, you wouldn't drop Ledley, that's mental.
Yeah,
I would drop him ahead of our captain or Wanyama. I have to say it.
Scott Brown and Wanyama.
You wouldn't have Commons in there then?
I'd have Chris Commons.
But I would have
the left hand side of my midfield. Joe Ledley's an outstanding centre mid, he's not left.
But you would drop me Fanny then? I don't think you would have Ledley at that midfield.
Can we just remember what Nakamura did in terms of free kicks, especially in Europe?
I know.
Especially against Manchester.
Okay, the question is, he wanted to
but that's pretty much what he did, wasn't it?
Yeah, well,
exactly, that's what he did. That's what he did.
Johnny,
I would have him in the team for that reason.
On balance, I would probably take Strachan's midfield.
So you would take Nakamura, Brown, Donati and McGeady. Donati was an imposter.
But
I love the guy.
If you're going to let me pick and choose...
I only loved him because he was Italian.
I know, if you're going to let me pick and choose, I'll drop Donati and I'll stick Wanyama in there. Right?
Of course.
Yeah, but if you're matched
so you would take Nakamura and McGeady over Commons and Forrest.
every time.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Do you know what? I'm going to agree with you on that one.
It'll be interesting to see who from our midfield scores goals in this group stage. Because Donati did.
Yeah, we
against
have
Shakhtar.
Yeah.
But actually, we have a distinct line.
To be fair, do you know, man, I think both of you made a good point there. My instinct tells me that our team is better than Strachan's team, but that midfield's...
No, and you're going to...
Nakamura and McGeady are two better wide players. McGeady is your explosive James Forrest, but a bit better type player. And Nakamura is like Chris Commons, except maybe he'll score less goals, but see if you get a free kick anywhere in the final third of the pitch, he's going to put it in somebody's nut. And you're going to put it in the top corner, and it's a goal.
And you're just about to clinch it by telling us our front two, who are probably...
Our front two are Scott McDonald, who's not as good as Gary Hooper, and Jan Vinegar of Hesselink, who I'm hoping is not as good as our new Spanish, or Venezuelan centre forward.
You're speaking out of hope rather than expectation.
Aye, of course. But I'll tell you what, there's been a wee bit of debate about, I had a couple of chats with people working about this. Gary Hooper is infinitely better than Scott McDonald.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, his record isn't as good.
Scott McDonald scored some big goals. If you think about it, like AC Milan or that absolute screamer that he scored against Raiders.
I think, but if you look at that team we had, if you're playing as an out and out centre forward, you're going to score goals for us. No matter who you are.
I would take Gary Hooper right now. I would take Gary Hooper
absolutely
ahead of
Skippy.
But I'd play
I think to be honest, you look at Scott McDonald's international record. Or rather, his lack of international record. It's appalling. He's not set the head on fire down south. He left us at a good age to go down to Middlesbrough. If he was going to be that good, he'd be in the Premiership by now.
I'm not letting you away with that. Scott McDonald was a great centre forward for Celtic.
He did a good job for a couple of years. He scored a few goals.
He's a Hunscaper.
Scored some big goals.
He certainly scored some good goals against
Gary Hooper's a better Hunscaper right now. Anyway, so on balance, team-wise, the Strachan midfield wins that.
I think the midfield's probably better, but again, I had this argument with somebody else the other night. I think if you take the two 11s from Lennon's team the other night and Strachan's best 11, I think there's probably more players from the Lennon's team. Like, Lennon's team's more exciting.
It's younger.
That team that you mentioned, there's other good midfielders that in that squad.
There are also other ship midfielders
like Hartley and Robson and Rosas.
Aye, Kroos, okay, all three of them for me were crap.
No.
All three, none of them were getting
None of them were getting the team. Maybe
I also, if Anderson was also a first choice regular who's crap.
Well, he had a couple of good games. One in particular against Benfica, who were
Nice. Mark Watshall had a couple of good games.
We pumped Benfica like 3-0 at Celtic.
Aye, Van der Snow scored, he was immense.
In fact, Celtic that night, I remember watching and thinking,
No, I didn't.
we were terrific.
Aye, he was excellent.
He did,
That was up there,
score,
for me, that was up there with two
but he did run the show.
Celtic games I
Okay, I'll take it
remember.
off it.
3 Celtic games I remember as thinking we are comfortable European elite class. That Benfica game and the Valencia game where we went to penalties. I thought we looked terrific that night. And the Lyon game we won 2-0. The Juventus game actually comes in a close fourth. In my living memory, those for me are the standouts where Celtic just looked. There are games where dramatically we won things like against and Shakhtar Donetsk in the last minute we scored last minute games, or the 1-0 result against Manchester United. But like but for those for pure domination.
Yeah, for me actually, in that respect, the game that totally knocks it out for me is Juventus at home.
We were freaking awesome.
Moravchik.
Sutton.
Balza.
Aye, right, everyone clean yourself down, wipe yourself off. Can we just please stop it?
Moravchik's finest hour though.
Yeah. Against Juventus. The old mother of Italian football.
Well, that's Sutton volley with the left foot.
We just felt invincible.
We were invincible at that time though, that's the thing, we were invincible.
We
would have beat anyone in the world, and we did beat anyone in the world at Parkhead.
That was the sort of start of
See, that's what I want back.
3.5 years.
I get a wee hint of that against Helsingborg, mate. That's what I want back. I want to fucking roar Barcelona off the pitch. Genuinely, I want to shout them out the place. I want them to be intimidated. I want them to be quaking in their boots.
The thing is, this is interesting.
They've been in Nou Camp, but they haven't experienced anything like Parkhead.
That team was built on the basis of millions of pounds of buying experienced players.
Aye, but we've moved some great players there.
It's
not just about money.
I agree. Okay,
it's not just about money.
I agree, but we are a young team, right? And we can do that, right? We can. But that's what happens next.
Most of our players have experience in Europe now. Most of our players have experience in Europe.
They have a bit right. What happens now is critical. It's utterly critical. Celtic have the opportunity now, and this is why Champions League comes absolutely first and foremost for us, regardless, because Lennon was talking today about the fact that the pressure was actually on qualifying. Yeah, in financial terms it was. Now we're there, it's great, right? I don't want us to take the foot off the gas.
There is no pressure on us just now, though,
there isn't, no, there's not that kind of pressure, right? But for me, and we'll talk about this in part 3 or 4, right, of the podcast, Celtic now have a unique opportunity to create something utterly historic, right? It's the basis that we have a very young team of talented, committed professionals, a dedicated manager, in my book, of the like that we have not had since Jockstein, in terms of his commitment to the club, his understanding of the football club, and his potential longevity. Right, we have a stretch here without a known geographic rival. We have an opportunity now to utterly recreate ourselves and to push on in Europe. Right, to me, we stand literally on the ledge of history. Right.
I think that's bold words, but I think you're maybe getting a wee bit carried away.
No.
The big thing is getting into those group stages from a financial perspective, particularly. You know, to get beyond that is such a big ask, Martin. It's such a big ask that all you can ask. Well, for me, all we can ask is to get there and to do our best. I love the fact, Martin, that the pressure's off now. I love that. I love the fact that we're getting into these games thinking, do you know what? Anything's a bonus. Anything's a bonus. And we can do this. We know we can. Yeah. We've seen it before. But let's be perfectly honest, substandard Celtic teams have beaten bigger teams at Parkhead purely because the crowd. Yeah. Purely because the crowd. And the Celtic fans have the ability to
win games at Parkhead. We can win big.
To provide a 12th man to win games on their own. They really do.
I'm going to say something a bit bold here, right? Mm-hmm. I want Celtic this year to aim to win the Europa League.
I fucking love it, mate. Oh, I'd love it.
Seriously, why not?
Why not? I don't know. Like,
We have no pressure in our domestic
I don't know what
league
teams
at all.
are in. I won't say like,
we are never going to have a
if
chance
Liverpool
like
has
this.
a bit of form, you've got the likes of Liverpool in there, Newcastle.
We
We can beat them. Of course we can.
Come on.
Of course we can
do this. Seriously, we have a manager and a team and in my view, a board that is 100% committed to our success. We have no geographic rival in the domestic. We have a domestic league where we don't have really any rivalry at all. We can concentrate our efforts 100% on getting everything bang on. And actually, Neil Lennon has shown in the qualifying stages that see if he concentrates on something, he can do what we haven't done before. Winning away from Europe comfortably. Like we can do this.
But
why the fuck not?
Listen,
we're one of the biggest football clubs in the world. Why can't we go? Why can't we aim for that?
Do you think that the lack of competition will be a benefit or a hindrance?
I personally think it will be a benefit.
It may be a benefit for 1 year, but it's not going to be a benefit long term, is it?
Nah, this year's our year. We need to do it this year. We need to win the Europa League this year. Seriously, we can win the Europa League this year. I don't think we'll finish second in this group. Right? I think we might finish third. If we finish third, I'll consider it success.
What about all the other Champions League teams that finished third? I mean, did you happen to watch? Did you
but
happen to watch Super Cup last night?
By the time
Falcao.
Yeah. By the time we get through our 8 Champions League games, we'll have a team. But we can do this. We can do this.
There are a lot of teams that have teams.
I don't want to take either anything, but I certainly think in our group we've got a good chance of finishing third. I think we've got a 30-40% chance of finishing second. I think it's doable. You know, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I think, as I've said before, and I don't mean to sound defeatist, but I think, or rather I know, Spartak Moscow and Benfica are two teams who are better than Celtic at the moment. They're better than Celtic. However, they're not better than us to such an extent.
Anyone's beatable at Celtic. I want everyone to get back in that way of thinking. I want us all to know that we can beat anyone at Celtic Park. See if we can beat anyone at 50% of our games. We can do this.
Well, 9 points. 9 points will get us through that group. Right. I'll put my reputation in that just now. 9 points will get us out of that group. If we win all
we're
of
not
the
going to
games,
beat Barcelona at Celtic Park.
Maybe not.
Maybe could, but actually that totally
No,
contradicts what I
I
said
think it's very unlikely. But 9 points will get us out of that group. So whether that's 2 home wins and an away win against Benfica or something like that, like 9 points will get us out of that group.
Let's talk about our squad. Have we got a squad to do that?
Yes. Gary Caldwell's not in it, so we've got a chance to win away at Benfica.
I'd take Gary Caldwell back in second. 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 I'd take Gary Caldwell back in second.
Right, talk about our signings.
There's not a lot to say because I know absolutely nothing about any of them.
Okay, well, Johnny, tell us who we signed.
Okay, so our signings in this transfer window, I think we've done some good business. I think possibly our most important signing, Efe Ambrose, a 23-year-old centre back from FC Ashdod in Israel. We have Nicolas Fedor, better known as Miku, if you're a Spaniard.
Mick.
And the goalkeeper, Lubos Kaminar, I believe his name is, from FC Nantes. I think more than anything he's a third choice keeper, so we probably won't see him. So I'm not going to talk too much about him, mainly because I don't know anything about him. In terms of the other two signings, I will also profess to knowing not very much about them. Other than the fact that I know certainly the chap Efe Ambrose from being on I'm a Kerrydale Street man. I know a lot of the boys on there were some of the chaps were not in favour of him, but I think most people were. From watching his YouTube video highlights,
classic fail.
Right, but you know what? It is, right, but a YouTube video highlights of a centre half is never going to be exciting, right? But the one thing I picked up from it was the fact that, like, pretty much all his highlights were launched balls into the box towards him, and him meeting him with this titanium head and launching him into the opposition half a la Bobo Baldy. Right? Now, I don't want to draw a comparison that's unwarranted, but it looks to me to be that type of centre half. Right? It looks to me to be the type of commanding centre half that we've wanted for a long time.
To be in that. So I actually, Neil Lennon said something interesting when he was talking to Chuck Young today in New Scotland. He said that he had signed him, and his view of him, he'd been watching him for a while, and Efe Ambrose was in the Victor Wanyama mould, in the sense that he could play centre half or centre midfield. And if that's the case, if you get anywhere close to the success we've had with Victor Wanyama, that's a great sign.
Oh, it's amazing sign. I don't think from watching his YouTube video, Martin, which is I watched a couple of them. He doesn't strike me as being similar to Victor Wanyama in that as a football player. He seems to be a dominating centre half, right?
Okay.
But it's exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need. We've got Callum O'Grady for me is a great football playing centre half. I think Thomas Ronya is going to be a fantastic centre half. But we need a dominator in there. We need a proper, for want of a better phrase, a dominatrix.
You definitely need a better phrase.
But we need a proper centre half in there.
But to me, to look at the faces we've brought in, you've made a classic. I think I would like to point out the classic mistake of the excited Celtic fan, in the sense that you missed the biggest...
No, it's not to be excited.
Hold on. I think you've missed the biggest signing of the season.
The centre forward?
No.
Oh, you're talking about Fraser Foster, aren't you? Well, listen, we've spoken about Fraser Foster in our last podcast, have we not? Fraser Foster was the signing of the summer for me. It was always going to be the signing. I think.
For me, actually, I'm going to substantiate that. Fraser Foster for me was critical.
It was.
He's in my top 3 Celtic players.
I guess we took Fraser Foster as a bit forgiven, right? His performance away to Helsingborgs, and I said it on Twitter.
He won the game for us.
If you were on the Green Room CSE, you would have seen the fact that I said on Twitter that was the night that he arrived as a Celtic player. In fact, do you know what? I'd probably go beyond that now to say that was the night he arrived as a proper football player. Like, that was the night he arrived as a big time player.
Not against Hearts, that penalty save.
That penalty save was important for him, and it was important for his confidence,
yep.
but only because he made a few mistakes before that. That night was the night that he arrived as a top level keeper. The day after, he had Roy Hodgson saying, "Do you know what? I'm actually looking at this guy." You had the English pundits, Gareth Southgate and stuff, saying, "This is a keeper. This is a proper keeper." Like, that was the night he arrived for me. He made some immense saves that night. He was big. He dominated that penalty box.
This is what
the way I've wanted to see a keeper dominate.
This is what the Champions League does for a team, right? This is see the attention that you get. See, you can quantify it in financial terms. You can quantify it in the excitement of the support and in the joy of being in the Champions League, right? What it really comes home is where you get that international recognition. People start looking at your players and saying, "He could play for England. He should be starting for."
He should be playing for England.
That's fantastic. I've not felt that for several years. To have that international attention.
It was brilliant.
To say,
it was great.
And the thing is, there's nothing.
We've maybe missed out, because I know we haven't done a podcast for a couple of weeks because of various reasons, but we missed out like how big his performance was.
He was huge.
He was absolutely immense. He was immense, Martin. Absolutely fantastic.
He kept
us in that game for such long. Some of the saves he pulled. The thing is, it wasn't even just the fact he was doing stuff well. Some of the saves he pulled off, like particularly the one where the ball was through and he chipped it, and the one-handed save, like, it was just immense. An absolutely wonderful reaction save.
And also coming to meet crossballs, which unfortunately we haven't seen in a long time.
We really haven't. It might be controversial, but I tell you what, the holy goalie Arthur Boric did not do well with crossballs generally. That game in particular, Fraser Foster commanded his 6-yard box in a way that I've been absolutely dying to see for a long time. For me, if you're a keeper, anything in the 6-yard box you clear out, the centre half and the centre forward, and you take it. If you punch it, if you grab it, whatever, but you take the ball, and that's what he did that night. And do you know what? It gave so much confidence to the back four. It gave so much confidence to the back four to go on and play. I think the other thing about Fraser Foster is he's excellent with both feet, which is such a rarity in goalkeepers. So I'm not in any way trying to underplay the importance of Fraser Foster. I think he was the biggest signing. I'm trying to go back to our most recent signings in the last couple of days. And I've obviously spoke about Efe Ambrose. I think but I don't know anything about him, right? I don't think anything does really. There will be a few people out there who watches really football who might be able to tell us one or two things. But I think for the 90%, for the vast majority of Celtic fans, we don't know much about him other than what we've seen maybe on YouTube and what we can see of him physically and what Neil Lennon tells us. He looks like a big solid centre half, and I trust the gaffer. He looks like the type of signing we need. So I'd say he'll do a good job for us.
And our last podcast we said Celtic needed, after the goalie, we needed two signings, a centre half, but also needed a centre forward.
100%.
So a centre forward that's been signed on loan. Is it a disappointment he's on loan, incidentally, or is it just realism?
No. It's fantastic. Miku, we've signed him on loan, but we've agreed a fee with him, with his parent club. Sorry,
it must be quite to sidetrack. It must be quite a substantial fee we've agreed.
I would imagine so. Well, by all accounts, and I'm only going on general media reports, and this isn't just one or two. General media reports are that Swansea were very, very interested in Miku earlier on in the transfer window, and were quoted a price of €9 million, and therefore balked at that price and ended up with Michu, who's their centre forward just now. Is
that the wrong Wanyama? The wrong Bangura?
No, Michu. Michu's been fantastic for him. He scored 2 goals in their opening weekend actually. And it looks like an excellent centre forward for £2 million he's signing for. So he's been an excellent signing for them. But anyway, from what I'm led to believe, Swansea made this inquiry for him, and I think possibly Getafe were holding off for more money. It's maybe backfired on them, and then 2 or 3 days to go with the transfer window, that's when we became aware of his availability, because of the fact he was obviously unsettled. Now the fact that Swansea made their interest known in him and they were quoted that price is reassuring. Also the fact that Swansea's manager Michael Laudrup has a very good knowledge of the Spanish market, having been a manager there, and pretty much all of his signings for Swansea have been from Spain. The fact that he's made an inquiry for him is quite reassuring as well. Yeah. He knows he's a good player.
How can Celtic pick, if this is a quality striker from the La Liga, is it just because Spanish football's in such a state just now?
Spanish economy is in crisis right now, right? Spanish football clubs are in crisis right now.
Should we be looking at Spain more?
Well, let's say we've signed this guy on loan for a season, right? We've paid £500,000 loan fee for him, right? We're picking up his wages of £18,000 a week. This is pure speculation from my part, right? But let's just say this is the case, and we've agreed a futures fee of £2.7 million, say, with his club. Now, and that's a good deal for all parties. Now, Getafe are not a big Spanish club. They will be struggling financially along with most of Spain. They've picked up a £500,000 fee. They've saved these almost £1 million a year wages, and potentially going to pick up an almost £3 million fee at the end of the season. For Celtic, what have we lost? We've lost £500,000. He's £18,000 a week, which probably puts him on a par with one of our biggest earners, I would imagine, at the moment. Yeah. I wouldn't imagine many guys have more money than that. But we've got one loan for a year. If he sets the header on fire, if he does a job in the Champions League, then we sign him permanently next summer, and that's our centre forward sorted. If not, we send him back, and we've not lost a lot of money.
He's a bit older. He's 27.
27 years old. Scored 12 goals in La Liga last year. Now, 12 goals in La Liga is no mean feat, full stop. To score it for Getafe is an excellent result. He scored 2 goals against Real Madrid. Now, I do watch about Spanish football. I'm not going to profess to know a huge amount of this guy. I've watched his YouTube videos, I've watched his goals against Real Madrid, I've watched his goals generally from last year. He looks to have excellent feet, he looks to be very fast, he's very tall, looks to be powerful. I'm going to put my neck in line and say this guy's got an excellent signing for us.
So, we lost 2 centre forwards. We lost Bangura back on loan to AIK, and we lost Darren Murphy on loan to Ipswich. Big losses.
Right, let Mark, actually, we'll let speak.
Let's talk about Bang Bang.
I'm going to go there, right? I've brought this up before. I want to talk about Bang Bang, right? I've been shot down. No, shut up. I've been shot down in flames before for bringing up Bang Bang, right? Boys, it's really important we talk about Bang Bang right now, right? Really important. Now, the question what I want to know is, right?
Did we get the wrong guy?
No.
Did we sign the wrong Bang Bang?
Garbage, right? Garbage. We didn't sign the wrong Bang Bang, that's rubbish, right? Now, Bangura is pish, right?
Hashtag pish.
No, Bangura, no. In all seriousness, Bangura is pish. Why is he pish? Right? I want to know why he's pish. Right? This is the same scouting system that scouted us players such as Izagiri and Kaya and everyone else who we've signed who's turned out to be a great player, Ki Sung-young. Right? How have we signed a guy who's so fundamentally pish? How has that happened? And why has that happened? I don't know. I want to know.
We talked about this in the lost tapes. It was a mistake. It was just
rubbish. Not good enough. Not good enough. Whoever's the guy who recommended him to the Celtic board or to Neil Lennon should be sacked tomorrow.
No, that's
okay. Whoever accepted that recommended. That's a lot of gap. That's a Daily Record story. The fact that Henrik Larsson has phoned up Neil Lennon and went, this boy's a player, Neil Lennon said him. Yeah. That for me is garbage. If that's actually the case, then whoever accepted that recommendation should be sacked.
It wasn't
honestly.
It seems to me that neither Darren Murphy or Bangura were Neil Lennon signings.
We'll come on to Darren Murphy. So I've got a few things to say about him as well.
On Bangura,
but Bangura deserves to be talked about. Bangura deserves to be talked about because he's not finished with Celtic. According to Neil Lennon, he's going to be back at the club, right? So let's address the issue. Let's meet it head on. Let's not just pass it off as a joke, right? He was a £2.2 million signing for Celtic. That's a phenomenal amount of money, right? He's been scouted by someone or some people at the club for a significant period of time, and they've thought this boy's worth 2.2 million.
Was it not
Gary Hooper? Gary Hooper was 2.4 million, right? And he's pretty much been a record signing to put it into perspective, right?
No, Waris.
We spent, Neil Lennon's on record saying Gary Hooper's his record signing, so I don't know what Waris.
I'm not saying Waris was 4 million, but
it was
probably expensive.
Probably was expensive, but he certainly wasn't more than Gary Hooper. According to a direct source, right?
Yeah.
So, if you want to talk about Waris, bring it up separately. But Mohamed Bangura, what's the story? Who's made the error?
I've told you my explanation for this.
It's not even just his lack of form, man. No, he's been fundamentally pish.
I don't think it's anything to do with lack of form. I think it's transfer deadline mayhem.
According to Neil Lennon, he's been scouted by people at the club for months.
You have a list of forwards.
So how do you compile this list? Do you go through a fucking list of bingo?
If you're listening, no, you don't. You have a list of players who have been scouted to varying degrees, right. And you concentrate 100% on getting your top choice, who is Baba Diawara. Right? You concentrate it to the point that you get to the point where actually you focus so much on it that you fall through, and you actually find in the 11th hour you're short of a striker. You need a striker.
You still haven't answered my question.
You need a body.
So you've scouted this player, Mohamed.
Yeah.
So you've scouted Bangura, right?
Yeah, you have. Aye.
So who scouted him, and what have they thought about him, and why have they thought?
Well, I have absolutely no idea. But someone has, and someone's thought.
We'll go back to my fundamental initial point, right? We've scouted this guy. We've looked at him. We thought he's a good player, right? Now, I'm not saying he's absolutely dreadful, right?
Yes,
stop.
He's dreadful.
He's been dreadful for Celtic. He's been dreadful for Celtic. My point is, and I raised this before, why is he dreadful for us, or why is he being dreadful for us, right? Is it because A, possibly what I think, he's absolutely gash, full stop, or B, there's some sort of massive issue that's preventing him from being a football player with us? I don't know. Neil Lennon sort of hinted at the fact that maybe the big transfer fees weighed heavily on his mind. That for me is absolute pish. That for me is garbage.
He's defended his player.
Martin, you look at his 20-minute performance against Inverness last week. He spent half of the time tracking a defender who was going off the pitch for Inverness, who was being substituted, and the other time he had a shot about 10 minutes to go that, I swear to God, I'm no football player, but I had to go around target. He shot from outside the box and he skewed it to such a ridiculous extent that it was laughable. He looked like an amateur. He really did. Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that time that big Graham Penis, or Souness as he's sometimes known, was manager of Southampton, and he brought a guy on as substitute who was meant to be George Weah's brother, and he played him for 20 seconds and he turned out to be an absolute idiot and took him off. For a wee bit of that makes me think that's Bangura.
So we've not necessarily signed the wrong Bangura, signed the right Bangura.
I don't know if we've been duped. I don't know if we went in the recommendation of somebody I don't go along with the story about Larson recommending him. I don't know if we'll perhaps employ a Scandinavian agent who's since went AWOL or who was a rogue agent or something. Like, but there's something like fundamentally wrong, and I want to know what it is.
Right, fine. Well,
I want someone to admit culpability for the fundamental failing
is that
has been.
Is that necessary? I don't think that's necessary.
I think it is because it's such a. It's not as if it's a £500,000 signing. It's a massive signing. If Neil Lennon put his hands up and said, "Do you know what? We looked at him in Sweden. He looked like a good player, and we got it wrong. Fair enough."
You can't say that. Because you could come back, he's like, oh sorry, you come back next season and have to punt him. I have to sell him on.
Well, Morten Rasmussen, for example, we signed for about £1 million.
He
never played him.
But we never
so why is he continuing?
You can't talk him down.
No.
You can't do that.
So why was he continuing to give, up until last week, why was he continuing to give Bangura a chance, yet he never gave Rasmussen a chance?
Him.
What? So why was he never giving Rasmussen a chance?
Rasmussen...
For 2.5 years?
He sent him on loan to Mets and Mines, and he did bugger all.
So why didn't you try and send Bangura on loan before? Rasmussen was there. Rasmussen was there for long periods and he never got a chance under Lennon. Now I think Rasmussen's crap as well, but why would Bangura get a chance and Rasmussen not?
My feeling is that neither of them.
Is it just because it's a Neil Lennon signing? Because that's what I think it is.
Bangura wasn't a Neil Lennon signing. It wasn't he? I don't think it was. It doesn't because.
So whose signing was it?
You can tell because if it had been a Neil Lennon signing, he would get.
So whose signing was it, Martin?
I have no idea. I don't claim to know. Right? I just know that Johnny, do you think it's impossible that the chief executive or the chief scout or whoever is involved in the transfer process will have?
I think it's impossible that anyone is signing for Celtic Football Club without Neil Lennon giving a go ahead.
Well, of course he does. Of course he gives a go ahead, but it's not his signing. Like, okay, officially it's like...
So you're trying to say to me that the transfer deadline day, Neil Lennon's phoned up and said, by the way, we've got this guy Mohammed Bangura who you've never heard of before, but we're going to spend £2.5 million for him, do you want it?
No, it's not that.
So what are you saying?
Peter Lawler says, this is the man...
I'm signing this guy.
I don't know.
I think he's Vladimir Romanov, Martin, that's rubbish, come on. That's a Daily Record story.
So you
garbage.
Okay, well,
Neil Lennon must know about it. If he isn't, he's a man of principle, Neil Lennon. If there was a player signed for the football club that wasn't his signing, he would walk away. And I'll tell you what, he would certainly, if there was a player signed for the football club that wasn't his signing, he certainly wouldn't have played him and persevered with him. Well, every time he was fit, Bangura was involved with the first team squad. Yeah. Morten Rasmussen wasn't his signing. Right, that was Tony Roberry's signing, right? But whenever he was fit, he wasn't on loan for significant periods. He was never involved with the first team squad.
Neil Lennon didn't sign it, Martin Rasmussen, but he knew exactly.
But you just told me Neil Lennon didn't sign. You told me Neil Lennon didn't sign Bangura either.
I think we spent enough time.
I mean, to get the bottom of it.
We're not going to solve it in the green room. The green room can do many things. It can change minds.
I haven't heard a decent opinion yet.
No, well, what I'll say, we just don't know the answer, right? I think what we can agree on is the fact that he's gone, and none of us are particularly devastated. I'm devastated about 2.2 million that's gone down the tubes, right?
I'm devastated about it
because I think that's a waste of money. But I don't know what you do with Bangura. It's one of these things. It's an aberration for me. It's an anomaly in an otherwise excellent scouting network. As Johnny asks the right question, what is the reason why we ended up with that? I don't know. But I think all the evidence points to the fact that he is inadequate. Sorry.
Well, what we've talked about a lot is who we brought in and who's gone. What to me is important about this transfer window is
you keep.
Who we've kept. We haven't lost any first team players. There's been first team?
Yeah, it's a first team.
I mean, there's been a lot of people stuffing about Wanyama or Izagiri or Hooper.
Have they? I mean,
yes, they have. And it's important that we have managed to maintain all of these players playing for Glasgow Celtic, and that's the best thing for me that's going to happen.
But there's been a bit of interest in Key, and as far as we can tell, I don't know. Apparently there was a £6 million bid, I think, from QPR for Wanyama, who the club quite rightly innocently rebuffed because he's possibly worth double that, right?
But I mean,
apart from
we've got assets, so the other clubs, Premiership clubs would want, and Celtic are quite good at keeping stuff behind closed doors, and hopefully that will remain to be the case.
Well, let's talk about that then, right? Okay, yeah, I take your point, right? I think that is the crowning glory of our close season.
Yes,
it's not
exactly.
necessarily a sign.
We haven't lost any.
Got rid of him. I think we had to get rid of Deadwood. I think that is great that we've kept
absolutely
the best players. The interesting footnote to that is that the press coverage of Celtic's transfer activity has been utterly pish, because I don't know, for whatever reason Celtic have managed to keep the press out of everything. Like I think I'm probably on balance happy about that. I think that's good. But you say, for example, that other clubs have been sniffing about our best players, with the exception of Key, Possible and Yama. Is that? I mean, I haven't heard of any.
Well, Southampton were in for Hooper and stuff like that.
That was in January,
Yeah, I
was that January? Okay,
tell me, like, is it the case either that there are clubs interested in our players and we've just not heard about it, or that there are no clubs interested in our players and people don't rate them?
No, I mean,
I don't think it's that.
We've got sellable assets, and fortunately we managed to keep them all. Whether or not there's been bids made that we don't know about, I don't know.
Well, apparently there's a bid made for Wanyama. I don't think there's probably been tentative inquiries made, and the value Celtic rate them at, there maybe just not being clubs interested. But listen, if you'd asked me at the tail end of last season what I wanted done from the transfer window, I would have said to you, a centre forward, a centre half, and Fraser Foster signed up, and get rid of some Deadwood.
Right.
And if we need a bit of money, who would you sell? I would have said Key.
So this is probably, is that 10
I
out
don't
of 10?
think any of us agreed. Right?
Yeah, I think that's ideal.
And we've got great money for Key, so we've done brilliant last year. So of course we would all love to see Del Piero and fucking Ronaldo and everything else, right? But let's be realistic about it. Let's be realistic about the financial situation as well, right? We've got a great price for Key. We've cleared off a huge amount of Deadwood. I mean, a huge amount of Deadwood. We're talking 14 players. We're talking
massive amounts of wages.
£4 million per year from the wage bill has been shed, and it's had no significant impact on our team. Right, that's massive.
We drew 2 each for Hibs today at home.
We would have drew 2.
Who would have played?
So who would have made the difference that's been shed from our team?
Key could have played as
Key probably would have played today, and the audience will Key would have played today. However, that wouldn't have made the difference, I don't think, today.
Ridiculous. So apart from Key, then there are 13 players. Cha,
Mastorovic.
Do you know what? Just go, man. Just get away.
Hold on.
Cha and Mastorovic. Are you being serious?
No, okay, I'm not going to take it down that road. But I think
if you're taking it down that road, I'll quite happily do that road with you. But I'll beat you up at the end of the road and leave you there. That's a ridiculous comment. Charderie with a headless chickens.
Cha wouldn't have played today. Mastorovic might get a look in.
Mastorovic with a bomb scare.
Yes, he was. But so was Gary Colville.
Gary Colville plays for a Premiership team. Where does Mastorovic play?
he's
yeah, exactly.
And on that note, let's say. Well,
no one we shifted would have made any difference.
Well, let's give Peter Law marks out of 10 for his performance this season in terms of transfer activity. Well, Neil Lennon and Peter Law, marks out of 10. 10 for you?
Yeah.
8.
Where's the deficit?
I want a massive marquee signing. I know it's not realistic, but you're asking me for it.
If we bring in Del Piero in the next 2 days.
See if we've made a massive marquee signing, I'll probably give him money, because why do we need to make a marquee signing?
I agree.
But
why do we need to spunk $2 million a year in wages?
I know you're being realistic, but I mean, as a Celtic fan, I would love to see something.
I'm a Celtic fan too.
I know, but I mean, you want that excitement, don't you? You want.
I know, but I also don't want to see us being put in a financially precarious position. I'd love to see. I mean, Del Piero's one of my all-time favourite players, right? Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't want to see us spend $2 million a year on them. Do nothing.
We've got an experienced deficit in our squad.
I know, but do we need experience? I had this conversation before, right? Last January we seen great experience, or last year we seen great experience in Mastorovic, and it turned out to be absolutely gash, right? We've seen experience in the past that's been rubbish. The experience doesn't mean you're a good player. The experience doesn't mean you're going to have a positive impact on the players around you. It is, in certain situations, certain personalities have a good impact on players around them. Just because you're old doesn't mean you're good and doesn't mean you're wise. As has been proven with you, Martin.
I'm neither old nor wise, but I would put it to you. I would put it to you that
my point is, I know people who are older than me. I know, in fact, most people older than me are a lot thicker than me, and I don't have as good viewpoints as me, right? And I'll challenge anyone to an argument on any Celtic player.
You can contact Johnny on @GreenRoomCSE.
Feel free. I've never lost an argument with Twitter, by the way. For the record, never lost an argument yet.
You've been involved in 3 so far.
Several.
No,
give me a go.
The gauntlet has been laid.
Seriously, give me a go. Like, in fact, I've never lost an argument on this whole podcast. You know.
Get in contact.
What about the team today? Like, was there an experienced effort the other day? Was there no?
In what way would have experienced me today?
I genuinely, I know I'm inviting getting.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what? I'll give you this. We would have done better with our senior players.
We've done better with Dan Mastorowicz, if you know.
Man, come on. I don't even want to go there. Like,
okay, let's.
Really, would have? How many goals on this? Did Mastorowicz cost us? Like, come on.
Right, fine. Okay.
We would have done better with our better players there.
Right. Okay.
Joe Ledley, Scott Rouse, of course, would have won that game.
Okay.
I mean, that's
to finish up, let's talk in part 3 about a subject which is close to my heart. Let's talk about Neil Lennon, right? So we've had Neil Lennon as a manager now for a period that stretches 4 seasons, which seems astonishing.
Apart from Sevilla, right? But certainly in terms of the passion I felt, right? That year was outstanding, right? And a lot of it had to do with what was going on with Neil Lennon outside the football, right?
Is it because we as a support
it's because we were pitched for so long,
we are best in adversity, aren't we?
Of course. We love being the underdog to a certain extent. We love being the downtrodden. We do.
Yeah, I think the sense is that there's an inner belief that what their club stands for is pretty impressive, and there's also an inner sense that people don't like that, and that most people don't like it, and certainly those in authority don't like it. And I tell you something, those in authority don't like Neil Lennon.
I think it goes. Listen, do you know what? I don't think anyone outside Parkhead likes Neil Lennon. I know this from talking to fans of Aberdeen Football Club, of Kilmarnock Football Club, of Hibs. No one likes Neil Lennon.
It's partly about culture.
But Martin Nielsen, Northern Ireland.
Listen,
so why was Martin Nielsen?
Well, I cast it in these terms, right? I don't know if you had the chance, and listeners, if you have the chance, please do listen to the recording by Paradise preview of the Brother Walford commemoration in Dumfries last week, where the club commemorated Brother Walford's contribution to the club. There was a very, very I thought erudite and moving address by Terry Dick about the place where our club was born from and the roots of it. And I had never ever heard it expressed in such. I knew that we were a club formed for the purpose of feeding the poor of the East End, and I knew that that was grown out of an Irish and Catholic cultural background, and that there were all these. There was a backdrop of social exclusion that focused on a particular community, and that our club grew out of that. I understand that background, right? I would like to have thought that Scotland in the 21st century was irrecognisable to Scotland in the late 19th century. But it seems to me that Neil Lennon has this capacity to divide people and to almost let them revert to these almost Victorian attitudes. I don't think it's anything to do with religion, but I think people resent his success. Because he is, for better or worse,
amenities to stand up for what
he's for better or worse a successful Celtic manager. Successful Celtic managers always encounter difficulty. They do. Name me one that hasn't.
I don't find it difficult for an opposing team to hate a manager, right? I don't find it difficult.
Do you hate any other manager in the SPL?
Oh, do you know what? At times I will hate another manager because of the way he comes across. At times I think Peter Houston comes across a bit of an arsehole. I used to think Jim Jeffries
Teddy Butcher's one for me.
Aye, but you don't have the same passion.
Not that.
And there's not the same communal hatred.
Do you know
absolutely.
what disgusts me most about the analyse situation? It's pure and simple bullying. It's everyone ganging up on somebody, and it's doing it for I think pure reasons. And I don't know what those reasons are. Right? People claim to have all sorts of reasons, but whatever it is, it's not nice. It's bitter. It's nasty.
There's a bit of jumping.
vindictive.
Do you know what? If I'm being nice about it, there's a bit of jumping in the bandwagon. I think a lot of supporters of other clubs jump in the bandwagon with it. And they maybe don't know why they hate him, they just hate him because he looks like he shouts a lot. He snarls a lot at the camera.
That's bullying.
And do you know what? You get it in the mainstream media as well. You get the picture in any of the tabloid newspapers.
They'll choose the picture where he looks like he's a...
There's a picture of him snarling.
Fucking
snarling Neil Lennon praises Hibernian after their performance at Park End. There's a picture of him fucking growling like he's a Rottweiler about to bite a child. Like, you know... There was definitely a bit of that, particularly last year and the year before. Like,
but notwithstanding how other people portray him and view him, you give him 10 out of 10.
Do you know what, Martin? I honestly would not have anyone else at helm just now. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I really wouldn't. I trust everything he does. I look at his signings overall, going back to the kind of pertinent point that you made and I diverted from, and I apologise, but his signings overall have been excellent. 90% of his signings have been excellent. The performance of the team since he took over, barring, I mean, that first year, his first proper year, we should have won the league.
2 games. We
should have won the league. A minor blip and we didn't, right? But we should have won the league. We've done excellent. We've generally performed well in Europe, bar a couple of blips, which is not in any way out of the ordinary for Celtic in recent years. Like,
do you know
and if you have to consider like the budgetary constraints he's worked under, compared to, first of all, Martin O'Neill, and even compared to Strachan worked under budgetary constraints compared to Martin O'Neill, but it's almost like it's like a line going down the way from Martin O'Neill to Strachan to then Lennon. Lennon's worked under far less money than what even Gordon Strachan has done, and it has we've done excellent.
I think
it's an exciting team.
What's brilliant about Lennon and what he's done for Celtic is the team spirit that he's instilled in the squad. I don't know if you happened to read during the week. There's a Celtic fan named Stephen who runs a blog. He's just started this blog, but last week or a couple of weeks ago he went to Lennoxtown to see what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah,
and the team ethic that Neil Lennon has instilled in the squad is brilliant. Everyone is having a good time, and it shows on the park. Everyone wants to work for each other. And we'll post a link on the Twitter feed later. This guy Stephen who started this blog, it's well worth a read for anyone who's listening. But all credit has to go to Neil Lennon.
His Twitter feed is at Stephen Steven Celtic 81. I think his blog was about basically his experience. That he was invited with the Celtic.
He was, I think it was at a wedding or something with John Park.
I think John Park invited him along.
Yeah, and he was just talking about how great everything is at Lennoxtown, and how the atmosphere is so good amongst the players. I think it's so important, and I think it's coming across in the field. Well, not necessarily today. We're obviously missing a lot of players, but especially in the European ties. It comes across
do you know what?
a good team spirit, and that's been lacking, I think, in the past couple of years.
As season ticket holders, we get to turn up at Celtic Park once every 2 weeks, potentially at a midweek game, and we see the team, and we immerse ourselves midweek and in between times in the club and what we can pick up from it, right? But we don't get to see what happens behind the scenes, right? See, for me, Celtic is such an important part of so many people's lives. It requires to have people involved there that understand the club and that demonstrate and live the values of Celtic. And from what I know of what Neil Lennon has done in our club, to me, he is the most important figurehead. He is among the top 5 most important Celtic personalities of all time. Who do you think about the custodianship of the club, the moral custodianship, different from the managerial custodianship, right? The moral custodianship of the club. he is placing himself in a role where he could be the most important Celtic man of our generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's uncontroversial.
I mean, this is completely way left field, but for some reason, the Celtic board decided to sack Neil Lennon tomorrow. Who would replace him? There is literally no one. There's no one. There's no one who could do what Neil Lennon has done the past few years.
Correct.
And I look forward to Neil Lennon being Celtic manager for years to come. Years to come.
I completely and utterly agree with what actually you just said there. I'm 100%. I place my trust 100% in Neil Lennon.
Yeah.
I trust everything he does. I trust every player he signs.
We started this podcast with a toast to Neil Lennon, and I'd like to do it once again.
I will heartily.
Do you know what? I'm there.
To Neil Lennon.
Yep,
Neil.
Neil Lennon. Yep.
To Neil. And do you know what?
Yep.
I'm going to at Green Room CSC. I'm going to tweet this to Neil Lennon, and I hope he listens to this podcast, because I tweeted him last time. I asked him to listen to our podcast about some team selection things, and I think he listened to me, because the next game he played pretty much the team I suggested. Now, I appreciate the fact that I am a scholar of football, right? Let's not joke about it, right? I am, right? I listen to a lot of people who talk about football, Martin, and they talk a lot of pish, right? A lot of people talk a lot of pish. A lot of people have strong viewpoints about football, but it's garbage, right? A lot of people rehash viewpoints that they hear off their friends or they hear on the terraces, and it's garbage. There aren't a lot of original thinkers out there when it comes to football, and there aren't a lot of people out there who look at a football game and analyse it to the extent that they can think up their own viewpoints, right? Now I do that, and I do it for my fellow Celtic fans out there, right? And I do it also, I'd like to think I do it for Neil Lennon. So if he wants to listen to this and he wants to take on board some of my viewpoints, you know what? I'll let him do it without giving me credit for it. He can take his own credit. I'm kind of selfish. I'm selfless that way. If he wants to listen to my viewpoints and select a team based on what I'm saying, he is very welcome. I won't take credit for it.
Good.
But do you know what? In all seriousness,
you're the sixth most important person.
I've maybe got a wee bit of stick in the old Twitter for saying people are pish, but I speak from the heart, and I'll tell you what, there are a lot of people out there whose viewpoints of football are pish, right? Absolute garbage. People who talk rubbish, people who regurgitate what they read in the newspaper. I like someone who's got a passionate viewpoint and it's their own viewpoint.
Well, let me invite even more pish in part 4 of the podcast. I want to talk about where we see Celtic in 5 years' time, 2 years' time. I want to talk about the long-term plan for Celtic, because for me, there's a unique opportunity in the next couple of years to do something different, and I want to get some of your views on that in part 4. We stand on the brink of another Champions League campaign. Place ourselves in the context of a completely unique position in the terms of our position in the Scottish Football League, Scottish Premier League, in the sense that we probably think we are guaranteed a league championship. That's the first time we could probably say that, certainly for me, in my lifetime. We are we're guaranteed Champions League income. We're probably financially secure for the next year, and for me, we have the opportunity to build on it. I want us now to create a time capsule of ideas that we can revisit in years to come and compare it against what we aspire to as a club.
Martin,
yeah,
I nailed this for you in the last podcast. Right.
Okay.
I nailed this for you, and I nailed it for all our listeners out there. I told you exactly what was going to happen.
We should just stop having opinions, because Johnny's going to...
You probably should just listen to me in the future. I spoke last time around, right? I spoke about the paradigmatic shift that Celtic were undertaking, right? Mm-hmm. And all that's happened in the last few weeks is I've been proven to be correct. Right? I spoke... I'm not joking. I spoke about this, the shift from buying... It's not particularly... I didn't say anything that maybe most people weren't thinking, but we have decided as a club to buy players from perhaps unsexy or undiscovered markets for small fees and try and sell them on for bigger fees. So we take Hee Sung-Young for example, okay, we signed him from a club in the Far East and we've brought him over to Scotland and developed him as a player over the last few years. We signed him for £2 million. Now fair enough, when we signed him he was, I think, the Asian Young Player of the Year anyway.
Yeah.
So he was certainly highly thought of over there. But we've brought him over here and developed him as a player and sold him on for at least treble what we signed him for. And he's left here not even being a first choice player with Celtic. That's fantastic business for us. That's what we need to do. That has to be our model going forward. We can't afford to sign 27-year-old players for £6 million anymore. That's just not. That's not the Celtic way anymore, I'm afraid. Whether or not we like it, that isn't the way. We need to sign young players and develop them and sell them on for a profit. I'm comfortable with that.
Yep.
And I think most Celtic fans are.
And we happen to be good at it.
Yeah, so very good at it.
So by
the way, at Peter Law's bequest, we spent a couple of years, particularly directly after Martinelli left the club, where we spent a significant amount of money. We took a significant chunk of our transfer budget and invested it into coaching and invested it into scouting. And we now have a fantastic scouting network across the globe. And we've identified players from across the globe, young players that we've went on to develop, which is brilliant. You know, I'd much rather discover a player from a lower league in Israel and develop him into a great player. That would give me far more pleasure than saying Nigel for £6 million, who was a great player. Like,
just so that it become a selling club.
We've become a developing club. There will be a time within our lifetime, or certainly within the next decade, that the markets will change and we won't become a selling club, and we'll perhaps move to the Premier League, or finances might change and the league will be the league we are in will become more competitive. But for the meantime, we need to adapt. We need to adapt to the environment that we exist in, like a chameleon, and that happens to be a country where we have to buy players at a modest price, develop them and sell them for a significant fee. Listen, you only have to look at the Premier League this year. Southampton has spent £30 million in transfer fees, coming from the English First Division, the Championship, whatever they want to call it, but the English First Division to the English Premier League. They spent £30 million in transfers this year. They can afford to do that. That's just ridiculous. We can't afford to do a tenth of that, pretty much. Like,
yeah,
you know.
So is it
if we were to play Southampton in the game tomorrow, we'd expect to beat them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's the thing, right? That expectation and the force of will and
that will make a difference.
The love of the club.
As you say, in terms of how we project ourselves in the future, Martin, that is what's going to make the difference.
Yeah, because we have so
the
many.
Force of will
we have assets
and the power of people.
Yeah.
Supporters will make a change.
We have assets in our club that Southampton will never have. We're an enormous institution. Globally enormous institution, right? And the reason why I wanted to talk about this in part 4 was because I personally sense that we could be on the cusp of something pretty terrific. And this is big, that you go through this kind of idea at the start of every season, and you think about what your priorities are. This season's different for me. It's different because Rangers aren't there. So we have at least one season of guaranteed dominance at home. We can now make the decisions now. We can think strategically about where we place ourselves in the world, right? I want to know what you want to achieve. I personally want to win a European trophy in the next 5 years.
Martin.
What?
I want to win the European Cup next year.
What I would put to you is, if we're talking 5, I mean, are you expecting that we are going to be playing the SPL, or are you thinking that you're going to be in the English League, or do you think we're going to be
I
in
don't
some
know.
sort of North Atlantic
I
League?
don't know. I don't know. I would quite like. I mean, that stuff will happen regardless, and I think the guys in charge of our club are probably thinking longer term as well, right? But I just think it's so unique that we aren't going to be fixated with Rangers for at least a year or 2 or 3 years. That's never happened before. We have defined ourselves by the nature of our duopoly in Scotland. We have always said.
No, I don't think we have.
Let me finish, Johnny.
I think
we've always said the league is the bread and butter. We've always said that.
Of course it is.
It still remains that, but the bread and butter comes significantly cheaper than it ever has before.
We've never defined ourselves by the old firm.
No, we haven't.
We haven't chosen to define ourselves.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
That's not what Celtic Football Club's all about.
No, but for better or for worse, if we are meeting Rangers, we're not winning.
I disagree.
No.
So
Johnny,
if we win the league this year, we're not winning.
Well, but this is why I'm saying it's different this year, because they're not there. They don't exist.
No, the war is
only by circumstance.
Yeah, I know. That's
The war is over. The Red Bulls have won.
Exactly, I totally
precisely.
We
haven't. We don't choose. We haven't chose, and we don't choose to define ourselves by whatever Rangers are doing.
You're missing my point entirely. What I'm saying is we've been forced by circumstance in our relationship with Rangers through the years to consider ourselves as part of a duopoly where we have to wrestle control off the other side. That's a fact. You can't sit there and deny that. That is a fact, right? What I'm saying now is that this uniquely this year and possibly for the next 2 years, that has been different. This is going to be different. This changes it. See, we talk about paradigmatic transitions. This is it. This is different. Right?
It's exciting though. It's
exciting. See, yeah, totally. So, what I want to do is lift our eyes above the immediate horizon, right? In the short term, we talk about the Champions League because it provides excitement, because we're not going to have the Rangers games, right? See if you look beyond that. What opportunities do we have now, right? Where we can actually look at our club, look at the way our fan base has developed, look at the way it's become more global. Yeah, look at the way that through, for example, the internet forums, the Hail Media platform, like the way that our fan base is becoming empowered. Think about the way that we see ourselves in the world, right? That's not reflected, obviously, in terms of our financial might, right? But we have some pretty clever people in charge. If you were in charge, and if you understood this groundswell, and if you saw the context of us existing in a world where our competition had been utterly emasculated, and that we can concentrate on the big ideas.
That's not a long term. That's not a long term scenario.
Yes, well, a medium term.
It's a short term scenario.
It's medium term. It's 3 to 4 seasons.
Okay, well, it depends how you define long term.
Well,
for me, 3 to 4 seasons is short term, right?
Right. Okay. Well,
we'll win the league for the next 3 years, right?
That's not enough. Right.
Hear me out. As a bare minimum, we're going to win the league until Rangers are back in there anyway. But I have never, and I would hope Celtic have never defined their existence. Martin, let me speak. To define Celtic by Rangers' existence for me,
I'm not doing that.
For a start.
I'm not doing that.
I think I'm not.
That's not what I'm saying, Johnny. I'm saying the fact that in practical terms we have to think about the start of the season. Every season we think.
We have thought about it. I don't see why you think we just need to think about it now. Where's this coming from?
I'm saying that we don't have to think about that. So we can think about other things. We have a unique opportunity to project ourselves onto the world, being free from the old firm baggage. We can free ourselves from that.
What's right?
Are you saying that we should be aiming to leave the SPL?
I think that's pretty much.
I'm inviting comment about where you see us. Please don't think I'm going to be antagonistic about this. I'm not. In my mind, right? In my mind, however you like to see it, we've existed as Celtic and Rangers. Like we have. Don't be daft about this.
I'm not being daft about it at all, but for me, Celtic exists as far more than Celtic and Rangers.
100%.
And always has done.
I know that, right?
We don't just exist as Celtic and Rangers.
But we don't have to pour all our energy and our thought and intellect this season into beating Rangers, as we usually do.
Likewise, we don't have to pour all our thought and energy and intellect into thinking, how can we define ourselves without Rangers existing?
I'm not. I'm saying you've got an opportunity. Don't be negative. What does Celtic do next? That's what I'm asking, right?
We're doing next. We want to become the premier force in Scottish football. We develop our reputation internationally. We do that by buying and selling young players from across the globe. And eventually we might look to playing in a different market, but that's fucking way off in the future. We do. We're becoming the premier club in our country and we're developing ourselves in a European stage. That's what we're doing.
But the thing is, our significance, right, this is a bit controversial, right, our significance stretches beyond the playing field that goes out, the side that goes out the playing field. In our games, we have the potential to be an international icon.
But we are. We continue to be.
We
So
are,
in connection with the Thai Tims and many a different charitable foundation.
That's total. That is there, right? That is there, and it's there in the periphery. It's latent, right? Celtic could become an institution of global significance in the sense of.
I think we already are.
I think we could be better.
Do you know what? Actually, on that note, just a bit of a sidetrack, right? But I was listening to. On the way to the game today, I was listening to BBC Radio Scotland, and a man who I'm not a particular fan of, but Tam Cowan and the sidekick, whatever his name is. And he was talking about the Celtic Barcelona game and how Barcelona are they give up their shirt sponsorship. Being the premier club in the world, they give up their shirt sponsorship to
UNICEF,
a charitable foundation. I think it's Qatar Foundation just now, but it's normally a charitable foundation.
Interestingly,
and he put forward the proposition that why don't when Celtic play Barcelona, why don't they both have or particularly Celtic anyway, have a charity emblazoned on their jersey? And I thought, you know what, it's a fucking great idea.
Save the Rangers.
Why don't we?
I think that's right.
You think about Celtic's home jersey this year, think about a home game, right? The Tenants logo is a small logo below the badge, which I think Tenants a big day too because it's our 125th anniversary, which is great of them. Fair enough. But if we've got a large space in front of our jersey, like I would love it if we had Skiaf or UNICEF or something like that on the front of our jersey. I think it would be absolutely fantastic. It'd be a great gesture. It would stand for...
To me, Celtic, I was inspired. I was flying back from Italy today and listening to that podcast about
how we get it. You were on holiday in Italy, for fuck's sake. Went down your midst.
And I was listening to the podcast from the Celtic, recorded Celtic Youth Society's commemoration of Brother Wilfred, and the guys there spoke so passionately about the work, for example, that the Celtic Foundation and Celtic Charity do. Do you know Celtic Charity fed 60,000 people in Somalia in the worst ravages of the famine? They fed those people.
It's incredible. 60,000 people.
How the heck? We don't know anything about
Who else does that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Celtic are unique, as far as I know, in the world as being an institution, a sporting institution, founded solely for charitable reasons. Right?
Yeah.
That's something we should be proud of, and it shouldn't be something we should feel embarrassed about.
It shouldn't be subordinated. It should be front and centre.
We should continue to beat our own drum about the fact that we've done that, and also continue to do that. Like, it's not something we should be in any way embarrassed about or in any way.
Absolutely.
We should be so proud of that, and that should continue to be our sole purpose.
Honourable mention, by the way, to Craig Bellamy, who, completely unrelated to Celtic, this was before he joined Celtic, has a football foundation in Sierra Leone. And
that's right, I remember hearing about that actually, aye.
Incredible work that he does there, and his own money goes into this foundation. And you're right, Celtic's charity arm stretches the world around, and that's something that we should be more proud of than football and exploits.
But just even right, even if you turn it into base commercial terms, right? For example, there are worldwide sporting brands that stretch around the globe, right? And some of them, take the New York Yankees for example, right? You see so many people walking about with these caps on that have the New York Yankee symbology on it, right? It's a worldwide global brand, but it's not just about the fact that they're a successful baseball team, right? There's something about it. Celtic have a unique brand in the sense of who they are, who they came from, the nature of the club, the ideals behind it.
Something
we can stretch our legs, we can leave the West of Scotland behind, and eventually it won't matter what league we play in because we'll be so freaking sick. We are 100%, in my view, the most impressive sporting institution in the world.
Agreed.
But we have a unique opportunity Yeah, but you've got to look beyond the parochial and the insular, to look and see ourselves on the international stage,
Okay.
create something new. I want real leadership here. I want real ideas. I don't know what those ideas are, right? But I encourage everyone who listens to this podcast and everyone who's active in the Celtic community online to start a debate about where you see Celtic in 2 years' time and in 5 years' time. And football's important. Football's hugely important. It is probably we're a football team, right? But Celtic, because we're more than that, because we have the power and we have the opportunity, it is therefore our duty to do right. And if we have the opportunity to change the world for the better, I think we should take grasp of that.
Your question, answer it. Where do you see
More than a
Celtic?
football club, Martin. More than a football club.
Where do you see Celtic in 5 years?
I don't know if I see us anywhere, right? I think we have an opportunity, right? I would quite like. I think there's a dirty bit to go in between, right? There's a mucky bit.
Dirty bit.
There's a dirty bit, and I think Celtic need to commercialise ourselves appropriately in among our immigrant population. Like the Celtic taps uniquely into the Scots and Irish diaspora around the globe. And I think when you saw the kind of results of Celtic playing at one game in Philadelphia this year, about kind of how much excitement was caused. Celtic don't just need to be a West of Scotland brand. They don't even need to be a United Kingdom brand. We can brand ourselves and we can project ourselves around the globe in a very unique way. We don't need to be afraid of that. This is a new world. Everything has been, in the face of the recession, everything has been reduced.
And the internet, the world is smaller.
All it needs is people of imagination. I don't have that imagination, but I think if we project ourselves well, I think Celtic can laugh at the sums that we get from the Champions League. We don't need to be begging for scraps.
I don't think we are. I think maybe you're being a bit idealistic in terms of your 2 to 5 year projection. I don't think there's anything going to change in our 2 to 5 to possibly even 10 year projection for Celtic. I think the model that we have adopted will continue to be our model for certainly for the next 5 years and possibly beyond, and I think it's a right way to go about our business. I think in terms of we have championed to a certain extent, and we can do more, but Celtic Football Club have championed and have promoted and have extended their charitable connection, their charitable links, and I think quite rightly make a big play of it. I think when I say they make a big play of it, I don't mean unjustifiably. I think they do a lot charitably, and probably more than any other football club, and I think that's the right thing to do. In terms of a footballing sense, I mean, I've heard this stuff since I was 10 years old about North Atlantic leagues and everything else. I'm not a fan of our North Atlantic League. If I was given the option to get into the English Premier League, I would take it, but other than that, I don't really fancy a Scandinavian league or anything like that. It doesn't appeal to me. And I don't think it's a realistic opportunity anyway. I think probably what we're going to have to do is make the best of the league that we're in. I think from Celtic's perspective, the best thing we can do is look at a fairer distribution of TV money amongst SPL clubs in order to help other SPL clubs become more competitive with us. I think that I've said this before, I think the financial detriment to Celtic will be far less important than the financial improvement to other SPL clubs if we decided to have an equal share of SPL TV money, for example.
Yep.
I think that's a right way to go about it.
Unfortunately, the people that run football in our country don't see it the same way.
I think probably what it comes down to now is it comes down to Celtic's SPL board, Celtic's PLC board rather. Rubbish. I think it comes down to Celtic's PLC board at the end of the day, and I can understand from a PLC perspective why you wouldn't want to say, well, we'll give up an extra 35% or 40% of our revenue to other SPL clubs. Why should we? We are the main draw in SPL, and I can understand that from a business perspective. But as Martin has been discussing, you have to look at a long-term perspective. You have to look at what we are not going to improve if the rest of the league gets weaker. We have to embrace that concept. We need some competition in order to be able to progress in Europe. We are not going to progress as a club. We're not going to progress as a brand. We're unless we progress in Europe, and we're not going to progress in Europe with dwindling competition in our own country. We need that competition.
Yeah, I agree with
Hearts still give a good showing.
But that's a one-off competition. But they still get pumped, they still get out. They got pumped off Tottenham last year.
Right,
it's a one-off.
We put on a
one-off competition.
What I mean is, what you're saying is correct.
Hearts were weaker than they were last year.
What I mean is, if they had a little bit extra funding, then they could have. They could have.
Yeah.
Extra.
I thought you were making it as justification for them having this money. No, you're absolutely right. They are weakened since last year. If they had a bit more money, then who knows what could have happened.
Yeah. My view is
a couple £100,000 isn't a lot to Celtic, but it means 2 or 3 new players for Aberdeen, for Hearts, for Kilmarnock, or someone of that ilk. It's far less impact on us than it does in them, and that's the way you should look. And do you know what? The same should go for prize money. There should be a better distribution of prize money. We should be filtering. Celtic should be taking the lead. Don't interrupt me. The Celtic should be taking the lead and filtering TV money and prize money further down the league in order to improve our prospects, particularly in a post-Rangers world. We should be taking the lead and making our league more competitive, because it benefits us in the long term, and we should be the proper bastions of Scottish football and saying, do you know what, we're going to do our best to improve this entire league because it benefits us. We're not doing this selflessly, but it will benefit us in the long term.
It's a massive point.
I'm going to throw something in there, right? We have actually a choice though. Like, see, it's about how we cast ourselves. The Champions League structure, as far as I understand, I don't know the details, is basically up for renegotiation in a year's time about how it's structured, right? And the impression I get from reading just wider football blogs is that European football can change dramatically in the sense of how it's constructed. The Champions League is set now as a supranational organisation, right? It sits above national leagues, right? From what I can tell, there's every chance that European football will take on a completely new texture, in the sense that national leagues will be of less importance, and those very important clubs will be elevated to the status of super clubs and will join some kind of international league.
Martin, this is just sort of, no offence, right, but this is sort of crap debate that's been going on for the last 20 years. The whole G14 or the G11 and the G14 as they are now, group of clubs, this whole debate has been going on for the last 20 years. There's never going to be a league of the G12 or the G14 clubs playing themselves on a regular basis. It's not going to happen. The likes of AC Milan, Barcelona, Man United, Bayern Munich, nobody would be interested in it, right? Well, listen, because it's not. Nobody's going to be interested in that, and it'll get boring after 2 years. They have got the pinnacle, right? They've manipulated European football to the point where these 12, 15 clubs are going to be the richest clubs.
The Champions League is beginning to look tired.
It's still the best competition in football,
it is,
right?
But it's beginning to look tired.
The big clubs have manipulated it to the point where they're guaranteed entry into the group stages. They're guaranteed a seeding system which will, as far as you can guarantee, will guarantee them progression to the latter stages of the competition, and therefore guarantee them the biggest wedge of the money, and therefore guarantee them the best chance of progressing the following year, right? They've done that, and they've done it well. Do you know what? I kind of disagree with it, because if Celtic were one of those clubs, I'd be saying the exact same thing. We should be looking after our own interests. I think that's as far as it's going to progress. I don't think there's ever going to be a stage where these clubs are going to break away and form their own league. Just in the same way, I don't think that Celtic and Helsingborgs and Rosenborg are going to break away and form a second pishy league. That's never going to happen, right? We have to work within the conflict. Well, that, Martin, you're shaking your head. That's what North Atlantic League means. I've refined my view on this. Right? I genuinely think everything's up for grabs. What do you mean? Like Celtic aren't at the top table. We see Milan, Barcelona. As much as you
that's
like
why I
to
said.
think
That's why. No, they're not.
We
But that's
are
why I think.
relevance to these clubs, right?
But Johnny,
we have a unique
we
opportunity.
just spoke about our unique profile.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. But we are
if
not.
We can position ourselves.
We are not in the same calibre in terms of power in European football.
There's so much latent potential in our club.
I know,
so much
you don't need to say that at all. But if you're trying to tell me that you think Celtic have the same European power as AC Milan and Barcelona, Man U, then you're talking crap.
No, I'm not saying
You're
that.
talking garbage.
I'm not saying that. You're talking about the status quo. Where we sit in the status quo.
So
I'm talking about the future.
What are you? In the future, I'd love to see Celtic the most powerful club in Europe. That's a ridiculous point.
Why is that ridiculous?
Okay, brilliant. Let's all agree that we'd all love to see Celtic the most powerful club in Europe in 5
I'm not
years'
saying
time.
what we'd like.
Brilliant.
I'm saying what
Let's be realistic about it.
Johnny, I'm saying the potential.
But you have to be realistic, Martin. The potential's there, of course. We've got as big a support as any other club in the world. Exactly. But you have to be realistic about what our
Why, if we've got the big, as you, the words out of your very own mouth, if we've got the biggest latent potential support,
I didn't say that. It's not the words.
You said among them.
As big as.
As big as, right? Okay, so you think we're among the best?
Of
right?
course,
right. Then why the hell are we scrabbling around the edges?
Because of the market we compete in.
Exactly. So let's change the market. This is my whole
can't,
point.
but that's out with our control. We can't just decide.
No,
if we could
can't.
just decide tomorrow to compete in English Premier League, do you not think we would have done it?
No, Johnny, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's not within our control. It's absolutely
so
not.
what is your point?
What I'm saying is that I think and my impression is that the world of international of club football is changing. Is the potential to change dramatically soon, and we have to position ourselves to be able to take part in that discussion. I don't know what that means. That sounds to me like bullshit. No offence. Genuinely, I don't mean that to offend you, but that sounds to me like sort of bullshit here that doesn't mean anything. Right. I'm trying to speak in facts here. Like, we need to position ourselves to compete in the debate. What does that mean? Do you mean? Say for example,
we can't just decide.
Say for example, negotiations are ongoing just now about the creation of a Super League.
Which they are.
Super League,
okay.
Yeah. Say for example that those who made decisions, for example, the authorities in UEFA, including those who are previously involved in the SFA, for example, look around and say, who will we invite to these discussions and what form should they take? They look around, they look at the latent potential of clubs, they look at the powerhouses of European football. Celtic should be positioning ourselves so that we can take part in those discussions and inform those discussions.
I promise you, I'm not trying to. I really don't want to be disrespectful to you, but you're talking pish because you're talking pish. You're talking pish, Martin. I'm going to tell you why you're talking pish. Though. You're talking pish because of the fact that you don't know that these discussions are ongoing, and even if they were, you don't know that Celtic aren't involved in them. It's beyond hypothetical. Like it really is beyond hypothetical.
But to be fair,
you can't enter a debate about it, Martin. It's so fancy.
We're exchanging ideas.
Okay, I know. I agree with you.
You would think it's ridiculous that Celtic it could exercise that kind of status.
I don't think that. It's clear from what I've said that I don't think that's ridiculous.
So then why do then you say to me that you think I'm talking pish? I would say that Celtic could be part of those discussions.
We opened up this conversation about. Martin said what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Let's think about 1 year ago. 1 year ago, if someone was to say Rangers are going to be dead,
why don't we think about 5 years ago? And what's changed since 5 years ago? Nothing.
Well, right, but
10 years ago,
potentially things in football can change. You never know.
Everything will
of course,
change.
You know, the world could end tomorrow. But we don't all hang our hats.
You know, Johnny, it's fun. You won't go to hell for speculating. That's all I'm saying. Don't shoot it down.
It was.
I'm not shooting it for speculating, Martin. But I'm trying. I'm probably being a bit over the top, and I apologise if I'm right. But all I'm saying is I'm just trying to a certain extent play devil's advocate to your argument because you have to.
Well, don't for a change. You have to do that, right?
No, I'm going to do it because I'm not going to allow you free rein to speculate as to what can happen in the next 5 years and just to go totally off the rails, right? I'm here to rein you in to a certain extent.
But if a year or two ago, someone was to say Rangers are going to be ceased to exist.
Okay. And 5 years ago, if we were to sit in the same situation, and say, well, we're going to be playing in the North Atlantic League and the G15 club.
Just don't know.
I would be sitting here saying that's a lot of pish, and I would have been proven right.
Yeah, Johnny, that's 100% right. Okay, so but what stops us as fans of football clubs?
We can all talk pish. There's nothing stopping you talking pish.
Okay,
but you would have said that same thing if 2 years ago I was saying Rangers were going to be dead.
Come on, I'm trying to have a proper
right, Johnny.
I think I'll be some proper rebuttals to your points here.
But Johnny,
you've just told me
anything can happen.
I've explained to you why I think that the dynamic world of football is changing. You've admitted that we have a latent potential, a huge latent potential in terms of market
been
share.
the case,
Yeah, exactly, Johnny. What I'm saying to you now
How
is
is
that
that changing?
what I'm saying to you is that the ground rules of European football are potentially in flux, and there's a worldwide recession. There's a worldwide recession where people are looking to make money in new and exciting ways. That's the way the world was working now, Johnny. It is.
Sorry. No, listen. I'm going to hear you out here, but expanding that point you just made.
Okay.
In what way is that different from 5 years ago?
Because 5 years ago, I think there was an understanding that revenues were and expected income streams were probably guaranteed. Right? There is nothing unique. There's nothing safe about the way
revenues from Champions League Football Club is up by revenue from Champions League Football is up. So
it comes from television streams, right, which are notoriously
the same way the English Premiership revenue is up.
Notoriously retrograde in the sense that how they assess where their income comes from. Right, people don't have as much money now. The world is changing. The economic climate is changing. Sport generally has to find its place in the new world order. I don't think potentially. I think international football in terms of international football, I think is becoming less and less significant. I think national divides are becoming less significant. I think the Champions League has proven that the National Football League model is probably ageing. It has a limited.
I wouldn't disagree with that in any way.
So if you agree with that, right? If you agree with the fact that national football leagues have a time scale which is limited, and that something new will have to replace it if this appetite for sport and for football in particular will survive. If you think that, how can you then say that Celtic should not try to place itself in the context of that discussion?
I've never said that.
Good. Well then how can you sit there and shoot me down for saying that we should have a part in that?
Can we talk about what's most likely to happen as opposed to what could happen? Right.
Okay, what's most likely to happen?
Can we join it 2 years ago?
The fabric of football is not going to change that much in the next 5 years.
Do you think that?
Johnny,
that's what's most likely to happen.
Johnny, 2 years ago there was no prospect of Rangers going out of business. That's
such an localised issue, but actually I agree with you. 2 years ago I would never envisage what happened to Rangers.
Do you think
it's such a localised issue that we can't apply that to European football at all, surely?
Well, think about the economic crisis that happened since 2008.
Yeah, okay, that's going back 4 years. Again, we couldn't have predicted that like 10 years ago.
Johnny,
and it hasn't had an impact. It hasn't had an impact on
the big wigs
on what we are talking about here in terms
UEFA and FIFA.
It hasn't had an impact on Champions League football, for example.
I think you're right. I think the Champions League has been particularly resilient to change. Right,
it really has.
The model has been very resilient. It has, but national leagues haven't been resilient. As you said yourself, the Spanish league can sell as a very successful striker to Scotland, for fuck's sake, because the clubs are so.
Spanish economy generally is struggling.
The world economy is in complete flux, and sport has to find its way in that.
But Premier football is not. My pertinent point, right, from your original question, probably boil down to your original question about where do you see your 2 to 5 year, where do you see the 2 to 5 year future for Celtic? Not very different, is my opinion. I don't think the status quo will change much. I think the power brokers, the important players in European football, have built up their defences, and they will continue to skim off the majority of the cream of European football and the wealth of European football. Your G20 clubs will continue to do that over the next 5, 10, 15 years. I think Celtic will struggle to muscle their way into that. We may begin to do that in our lifetime, but it's not going to be a case of the next 5 years everything's going to change. It really isn't.
No,
I think if the impetus has been there from when we were young lads. I mean, we're not old, right? We are approaching 30 years old. The impetus has been there since we were 10, 12 years old. For Celtic and Rangers generally to
it feels different. It feels different.
The European football scene, but it's not going to happen next 5 years. I'm sorry.
Maybe not.
If you think it will do,
I personally think I think it feels different.
Do you know what, man? I fucking love it if you're right. I love it if you're right. I really would, and you know I would as well. Yeah. I'm as big a Tim as they come. I'm to the core. I want the best for Celtic, and I'd love to be competing on a European stage on a regular basis. I'm just trying to a certain extent, play devil's advocate, but more than that, I'm trying to be realistic, and it's not going to happen, man.
This goes to the heart of who we see ourselves in the world, and I think as a club we're not happy just being. I think it's more acute than ever that we're not happy seeing ourselves as just being local competition. It's not good enough for us anymore. There's too many people putting too much effort into this whole project. Celtic's part of people's lives in such a huge way that it's not enough to be winning the SPL and to be getting into the group stage of the Champions League. That the paradigm will change. The paradigm will change imminently.
I think
we've got to be there. We've got to present ourselves well enough.
It might change, but I think winning the SPL and getting into the group stage of the Champions League for a few seasons will do the majority of Celtic sport just fine.
Of course it will. That's why it takes people a vision to be able to see there's a potential world beyond that. There is.
Okay, yeah. Once we've done that for a few years, you're right, there may be a point in time where we go, is this it?
Is this
it? Can we do better than this?
I feel that now. I feel that four Premier Leagues in the SPL. I feel that now. Internet Bampots all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Green Room podcast.
Thanks, team. If you disagree with anything I say, which I'm sure you do, then please go on to @GreenRoomCSC and ask Johnny.
Yeah, give him
#push.
Give him pelters. But it simply remains for me to remind you that you can contact us on @GreenRoomCSC on Twitter. You can email us on greenroompodcast@yahoo.co.uk. You will find all our podcasts and can provide all your feedback on the magnificent Hail Hail Media website at www.hailhailmedia.com, and there you will also find all the very excellent other Celtic podcasts out there: the Lost Boys, the Homeboys, the Temporary Stand podcast, the Rebel podcast, the Boys at the Carluke Shamrock podcast, Paradise Preview, the Paradise Report, and the newest edition, the 90 Minute Cynic, which I recommend. Excellent football orientated content. And until the next time you join us in the Green Room amidst the waves of cigar smoke and the waft of the finest malt whisky, I wish you and Jonathan,
Hail Hail,
and Banshee,
Hail Hail,
wish you a very good night.